measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Sven P, Curved Fart, Pablo de la Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Names Burley, J Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Because the World Cup's about to kick off in the old United States, and it's like storm season, isn't it? Like, the game was delayed an hour last night, and I'm like, well, this is a good start.
Where's it being played at?
I think in a few different states, if I'm honest. I think.
Will they turn it into a traveling show?
Traveling show.
World Cup.
So I'm just looking. The host stadiums are the MetLife Stadium in New York / New Jersey, the SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, Seattle, Boston, Miami, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Kansas.
Holy cow. That's a lot of games, a lot of places.
Yeah, when it's in England, it's like in Birmingham, Manchester, and you would arguably say maybe, well, that's a bit of a mission, but not traveling state to state now.
I doubt they're bringing them on a bus, though, eh?
Yeah, they're all going to be traveling by plane.
The weird thing to me is like, if you've gone to see England and they play one night in LA and then the next night in like Houston, yeah, you are going to have to get a plane, yeah?
Yeah, and that's going to affect the the team and the betting. It was one of the... They're not playing like in Denver or anything with a high altitude, are they?
Well, that's been a major concern. They're talking about like drink breaks, like 25 minutes into the game, and then halftime, obviously, goes without saying in football, and then another drinks break in the second half. And yeah, so it was in Qatar a few years ago, and it was the same ridiculousness. Games constantly being stopped because it's like 35, 36 degrees, and everyone's dying on the pitch. So
35, 36. What are you, wussies? That's cold.
Not on our little island. It's not. It's freaking warm, bro.
You got your cute little temperatures. Go to Fahrenheit, man. That's man's temperature. Fahrenheit.
95 Fahrenheit.
There you go. There you go. That's Texas. Actually, that's cold for Texas. But
You know, those temperature conversions, they blow my mind away. They do, I swear.
I remember as a kid in, probably 5th or 6th grade, we were going to have to learn the metric because pretty soon we're going to switch to the metric. So that was probably easily in the early 70s when we were sure we were all going to have to switch to metric. And the best we got is just dual labeling on everything. This is 1 gallon or 1.12 whatever liters or 2 point whatever. But that's as far as we got. We never did do the switch. And that was 50 years ago.
What about a Royale with cheese?
What?
Never mind, it's a Pulp Fiction thing. I'm being ridiculous.
Oh, I've only seen that once, so I don't think I would have got the Royale with cheese. Oh,
I watched
is that a big quarter pounder reference to Big Mac?
Pulp Fiction. It's Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta talking about different things in Europe. Speaking of which, I was watching a shorts video from an American who now lives in the UK, and he was explaining how the temperatures don't directly translate. So you might in the States go 95. Yeah, that's pretty hot. No, it's not like that here in the UK when it's those temperatures. And this American was explaining it in a similar way that I'm going to now attempt to do, because I experienced this when I was a rep and I was traveling all over the world in different temperatures. Now, don't get me wrong, you can be somewhere like, I don't know, where it was particularly hot and moist. Korea. When I was in Korea, when you went outside in 100-degree temperature, you instantly were wet. Your suit was wet, your shirt was wet, your back was wet, your legs were wet, everything was wet immediately within a minute or two of being outside, right? It was just wet. So it was very, very humid. But you'd go into a building and then you'd sort yourself out. You couldn't stay in the heat, right? It would, and nobody did. So everybody goes inside, everyone gets in a car, right? Now, in the States, the same thing applies. Most of you got air-conditioned homes. Most of your buildings are air-conditioned, and so is all your transport. So everything's air-conditioned. Here, almost nothing's air-conditioned. Don't get me wrong, there's people with nice cars now, most of them have got air conditioning, but that hasn't always been the case. And everything else around hasn't got air conditioning. Generally speaking, you're not in an air-conditioned environment, so there's no escaping the heat. Right? So when you say, oh, it's 30C, oh, that's not that hot. Yeah, well, try being in a room that's generally geared towards being insulated to keep heat in. And then you understand that inside the buildings, it's considerably hotter than even outside. You go outside to escape the heat. So you're going out into temperatures that most people in other countries are coming in to get away from. Well, because it's so hot in the buildings, because they're so well insulated, because generally it's quite drizzly and it can get very cold here in winter, most of our buildings are insulated very well, therefore absolutely stifling. So anybody listening to this who works in an office, now don't get me wrong, there are very posh offices that do get air conditioned, but the majority of people are just in normal converted big Victorian houses and things like that. That's their office, and it chances are hasn't got any air conditioning. Most of the buildings I worked in when I was in those types of jobs were not air conditioned. So Craig, are you air conditioned?
No, mate. I went into freaking Morrison's the other day and I was like, oh my God, these guys have got aircon.
Oh my God, we're in an air-conditioned space. You're like, oh, I might stay in here all day. This is lovely. But it's a rarity, right? Craig's not in an air-conditioned space. He's working all day long. Now, he happens to be a bit lower down in quite a dark basement because he's doing tech stuff. So it's actually a little bit cooler where he is compared to where I am. And the guy above me in this apartment flat, we call it, is even worse, right? I see him with all his windows open much more often than I am, right? Because it's higher and hotter. But they're just the way it is in the UK. It just hits different here. The temperatures don't quite relate until you can't escape the heat. Then you really appreciate what 40C is when you're in a building and outside's 30C.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment, third floor, kills me.
For the Fahrenheit people, slightly under and slightly over 100.
So 40 C is 100 degrees Fahrenheit?
I don't know the exact conversion. I'd have to do it, but yeah, give or take.
Wow. No, but you get your hot, uncomfortable time doesn't last too long, though, does it?
40 is 104.
That'll be easy for me to remember. 40 is like 100, and then add the 4 from 40 onto the end of that. So 40 is 104. Okay. But your hot, sweaty season doesn't last too long, though, does it?
The point is, it's very moist here, right? So when it's moist, when you've got high humidity, the heat just hits differently. Texas heat is very dry heat. And it just doesn't feel as hot as when you're in somewhere like Korea. And then you freaking know about it because it's so moist and it's stifling and it makes you feel moist. Yeah? When the air's a suspension of the highest degree of humidity it can be. I think they call that 100% humidity. It just hits different.
Yeah, it's here in Indiana where we have all kinds of weather. If you don't like what you have today, just wait till tomorrow. It'll be a little different. But this is when we start getting really, really humid and higher temperatures. And I agree, man, you can't work in it, or else you go out a little bit. And, I was cleaning the stall yesterday. It was like 85 degrees Fahrenheit and probably 80 to 90% humidity. It kept threatening to rain all day, but it never did. And that's the worst. It threatens to rain, but it doesn't. And so it's just like walking into it's not even a sauna. Saunas are dry heat, aren't they? But man, no, I lived in Arizona too for a while, and 104 was nothing. You can go out, and as long as you get a little bit of a breeze, you're good. Fry an egg on the sidewalk, though, too.
I thought saunas were wet. Steam rooms. Maybe I'm just confusing these two things. One where you chuck water onto the rocks to heat up the air. Maybe it is really dry, and that's why you're throwing a bit of water on, because it's too dry.
Yeah,
you'll get. I don't know. This isn't my thing, to be honest.
You'll get if it's so dry. That's why you put water on there. It's so dry that you don't know that you're cooking and really hot. So you got to put water on the rocks so that some steam is released and you get a sense of a little bit of humidity. But yeah, if you're in a dry sauna without water, then you'll cook before you know it.
Yeah, they got one at the pool that I used to take both of my daughters to when I was teaching them to swim when they were younger. So in their earlier stages of swimming, I took them. Now my wife takes them. But regardless, it reached a point where I'd be taking one and one would be in a lesson, and I'd be like, well, I can't do anything for half an hour. I've got to be here in case could this one be taken to the toilet or whatever when they're really young. But for the most part, you're just watching them. You're not doing anything. You're not assisting, other than when they were tiny little babies. But so you just sit in the steam room, or what I thought was the steam room. It's just more like what you've described, where it's really, really hot, and thinking about it, really dry. And people would chuck a bit of water on these steam rocks or whatever you'd call them. Should really set up for the show, shouldn't I? I sat here eating melon. My wife's just come with a load of melon. Yum. Melon. Got my daughter in here doing artwork and my wife mustering around, so I've gone onto a different mic today. Hopefully there's no background noises interfering. We shall see.
You.
Morning,
Hey,
Neil.
What did I miss?
We missed sauna talk with the boys.
You missed me describing how UK heat hits different.
Yeah. To get air conditioners for that. I'm on cloud 9. Nobody can get me down today. Nobody.
you missed the free giveaway, £50
he
each.
gave a quote and it got accepted.
What was that?
You gave a quote out and it got accepted.
A quote for what?
He's confused, Nathan.
No, not
Neil's
the job.
excited.
Not the job. I go look at it again today. The Knicks were getting killed. Literally killed. They were down by 29 points. My cousin shut the game off. I said, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch the whole thing. And they won the game by 1 point. It was amazing. Now I got one more game to win, and the Knicks are the champions for the first time in 53 years. There's nothing anybody could do today that could get me upset.
Earth's a globe.
I couldn't give the tiniest of shites.
Son of a bitch. The Earth is not a globe.
Angels of Light is doing cool stuff.
Doing what?
Oh, what is he doing? Talking about free energy and freaking how the world should be an
don't
oasis?
Be such a negative Nelly. You couldn't have possibly read that from the tone of Surf Daddy's voice. What's he doing? Is it a secret?
Oh, really? That's great. I'm glad he's doing all those things, Surf Daddy.
Me too. Glad he told us. Good that we had it built up as we did.
Yeah, that's what you missed. Angels of Light just doing some great stuff, and yeah, it must be a good day for you, because not even that seems to be getting you pissed off.
Well, tell us what he's doing.
He's I'm sarcastic about this, so let's start there so you don't get ballistic. Just watching Facebook clips, and he's got a bunch of them out there where he's basically doing the Omi TV stuff. Only I know he's probably on TikTok or Facebook. I don't know how all that stuff works, but he's debating and interviewing people and making short clips out of it. And so saw one today where he is, and I posted it to Master B, and where he's just debating somebody, and he says up is up for everybody. And up is, so I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of good. Up is, because of a flat plane. And he tells some guy that up is everybody, and for everybody, point up. The guy is just an idiot. And he says, no, that's not flat earth. You can't have up on a flat earth. And, it is. I posted 2 clips. One's 10 minutes. No, here we go. You don't have to do it. It was just for entertainment purposes only. I did 2 clips. The first one is the 30-second or 1 minute one where the guy just said up doesn't work on flat earth. And the easy pickings, Angels says, okay, you got everybody in a Walmart pointing up. Is everybody pointing up? The guy says yes. Okay, he says, now extend that Walmart to the size of Earth. Of course, begging the question, are they still all pointing up? And the guy goes, no, they're not. And then Angels just laughs and laughs, and he makes a good clip out of it. The last clip, the second clip I posted, is a 10-minute clip of Angels debating McToon. And it's interesting only in that McToon is unhinged. And Angels takes advantage of that and makes some creative edits. Which I don't think he had to do too much to make them creative edits. But they're debating gravity and
oh my God.
I know. And it's only educational and entertaining because Toon is only able to actually debate somebody when he slides in. He won't even debate Nathan when we know he's in the server
Yeah, because Nathan will talk about gravity. This guy talks about gravity.
Yeah.
Suppose you're in a Home Depot or Walmart.
Yeah, and
One sec,
you
sorry
know,
to interrupt. Can you turn your speakers down a bit, Surf Daddy, because we can hear Neil talking through your speakers. Whatever you're monitoring, whatever you're listening on, can you turn it down? Headphones.
Yeah, it's on my
whatever.
phone. Yeah, I'll just keep trying to go on mute.
So up doesn't work on a flat plane, huh?
Yeah, that's ridiculous, right? And why go into Walmart and have everybody pointing up? Just tell these clowns how Earth is measured and end it already. He's one of the original freaking late coming fart sniffing bastards that wants to be the intellectual on the block to lord it over people.
Have you noticed the ballers have a real big problem with saying something only works on a globe and it is strictly prohibitive of the sphere?
I don't follow what I do. I know what you're saying, but I don't follow what you mean. Yes, they do say that. What of it?
Well, it just seems like there's a lot of things that are like that, you know? Like up only works, or up doesn't work on a flat plane when up is with respect to the plane of reference. So it needs a flat plane to be up, you know?
You mean
It's like
lots of
the
people who
opposite.
assert a contradiction to an axiom won't work on a flat plane?
He does that. They do that a lot. You know why? Same thing with, remember the sextant? The sextant only works on a globe. You can only do celestial navigation on a globe when it's the total opposite.
I mean, I can only assume that those sort of sentiments have been seeded in by the dishonest or exercised by the stupid. I can't really, there's no accounting for stupidity levels. But I would also say that if everybody automatically believes they're on a ball and a tool that is described as measuring Earth is suggested to be incorporatable into the discussion, then there will be an automatic ignorance of the B and C of it. Do you know what I mean by the B and C? Like in Hollow Man? It's getting from A to D without going through B and C. Well, the A is, I'm on a globe. The C is sextants work. So sextants only work on a globe. You're like, sextants that measure elevation angles, elevation being one straight line that's the base forming an angle with the star, work on a globe? No, that's a complete contradiction, but obvious when you go through the B and C of it. Now, because it goes without saying that that tool, sextant, is an elevation, that's from surface level, measuring tool, nobody does mention it. So it's in a position where it can be contradictorily hijacked to assert the complete contradiction of its axiomatic principle in use when measuring things. Therefore, you can get from A, Earth's a globe, to D, sextant's work, without going through the off a flat Earth for surface level measurement bit, the B and C of it. We've always been ignoring the B and C of it.
Yes.
From A to D without going through B and C. Why? Because it goes without saying that an angle measurement is from surface level. It goes without saying that up in a Walmart is perpendicular to sea level.
Wow, you're right. That's exactly why we passed. I'm asking myself how we missed everything. That's why we missed it.
It's so basic that it's just like, it's easy to miss, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't pay attention to it. Like, it's right there, 8 inches per mile squared. Right there. How Nathan just described it. Yeah, A to D. Forget about B and C because it's what do you call it? What's the word you just used?
Well, I was going to disagree with you. I was going to say that it's not that we missed it. Yeah, it's not that it slipped us by or that we didn't recognise it. It's that it went without saying.
Yes, that's what I mean.
You don't have to say Earth's measured flat for surface level angles. You just measure angles and read them off in the degree. So you pick up a sextant, it gives you a degree, you line it up with the horizon, that's Earth curve, because you already assumed that it is. But it defies the axiom of having a level for the straight line it's measuring, doesn't it? But that's the B and C of it that it goes without saying. So they've hijacked.
Yeah, but we missed it then.
That's how we missed it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Yes, I agree. Because it goes without say. Exactly. Unbelievable. No, we ain't missing it now.
Well, I think the Globers or the AI or the Beast or whatever that's ramping up this argument is not missing it. I literally just opened my Facebook and on one of the Glober troll groups. Which one is this? It's called Official Flat Earth and Globe Discussion. So you'd think it'd have, both sides. And it's just another troll. It's like 20,000 members or something like that. I'm sorry, 60,000 members. It's got a picture. I sent a picture of Master B. It's another AI produced picture. It's worth looking at. They're talking about up and down and directions, and they're putting out these dumb memes that confuse and conflate everything. So, I'm not going to put a they or them pronoun on what's going on, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the social media that just seems like it's preparing for Nathan's book. It's probably just biased, but
Are you talking about that picture where it's got the guy in a tinfoil hat and it's got down pointing to the center of a equatorial or a North Pole centric equatorial?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's worse because down is also south. So they've got Nathan, you really should pull it up so we can talk about it. But it's up to you, your show. But they've got an AE map, a tinfoil hat, flat earther, pointing down in astonishment at the map where north, the center of the map is marked down. And then they've got arrows going to the south on the map. And those are marked down also. Coffee cup on the side says research, not propaganda. And a sign in the back of the wherever this guy's at in his bunker says, trust the map, not the globe. Question everything. And it's just these memes are getting intricate. The question that the guy asks in the group is, can someone explain directional on flat Earth to me? Everything I've seen would show south in all directions. And that's another thing I've noticed in a lot of these groups is that English is really, really bad. Names are all creepy, weird. But the English is really bad. And there's anomalies. Like every word in this guy's question on the group is capitalized. It's weird.
I noticed how ballers and flat earthers are always appealing to the South. They will show me the South.
This is why I feel that you guys are correct when you said it's by providence that the book's been slightly delayed. So the most recent delay, if you want to call it that, was caused by me saying I want to re-edit one of the chapters, specifically the Molten Iron Core chapter, because I wanted to incorporate my interactions with Wayne from the map reading company into an anecdotal example of the false direction fallacy and explaining why it's necessary to have a molten iron core subvert the attention from the false direction fallacy, because it is debated about in regards to how hot it is, whether it could develop a magnetic field, blah, blah, blah. boring, 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 red herring, red herring, red herring, because we don't have a vertically orientated magnetic field. We use azimuth. Now, describing what's south, well, that's 180 degrees from north when you use a compass. And as you move around the North Pole, the compass orientates itself with respect to that pole. That's an absolute direction. So all the rest of them are azimuth. They're degrees from north, dependent on your position. So the only absolute direction's north. But they say, well, what's south? Well, 180 degrees from north, depending on where you are, based on that system that we used for the development of the known territories. Flat in a horizontal degree from north at 0. That's what it is. It's a convention that we use to navigate, and it's flat. So what do we need to do if this is an absolute in terms of principles when navigating for specifically directions? Well, let's talk about whether or not the ball has or hasn't got a core when we've only drilled down 8 miles, and whether or not that core, now completely ignoring how vertically we're talking about this subject, does or doesn't develop a magnetic field that's definitely assumed to be vertical for up and down. So this is specifically and explicitly been re-engineered in terms of my now very concise, as I've just given it you, explanation for why it's necessitated in the first place. That's the core. Why have a core? Why debate about it? Why invent a story of Thea? It's all subterfuge. We don't have a vertically orientated magnetic field, do we? It's horizontal, it's azimuth. Who cares what south is? It's used practically when we describe degrees from north, the only absolute direction. What's north? Well, this is the needle pointing towards one point that is alleged to be directly below the North Star that we also use as a single point that we can move around in a circle of equal elevation. Ultimately, they've extracted this out into things like great circle routes, but it doesn't alter what north as an absolute direction is and how azimuth, degrees from north, ascribed conventions like perpendicular in the horizontal, east and west, and south, 180 degrees from north when describing azimuth only in the horizontal. So that's why we've got a core. That's what it's serving in this debate. That's its purpose. How many times did we ever talk about how, well, hang on a second, a compass is just flat. Directions are flat. We use compasses and directions on a flat earth in horizontal azimuth. When did that ever come up? When we talked about the core, well, will we even have a magnetic field? Who gives a shit? We have, and we use it horizontally. But nobody ever discussed that, did they?
Nope.
Hey, Nathan, looking at that image that's up right there, the celestial nav image that's got the 90 and that's not on a curved surface. That is a flat circle. The path of the star is arcing, but it's with respect to a flat plane. You see it?
Sort of. Carry on. That's
Yeah,
probably
but
right.
they make the flat plane. They make the flat plane look like it's arcing a little bit too.
Well, the sky's not arcing either. The representation of a star at your zenith versus somebody who's 60 miles away, having the same star, whatever it be, an hour later or whatever, it's got to traverse the sky at 1 degree. They've moved the position from your zenith to 1 degree below if you were measuring it, but it's now at the zenith of the next person along. Now, based with the understanding of how that could only be described in degrees, the sky must be flat to have that be capable of describing through the degrees of a protractor. So much so that even if you raise an altitude, it still does the exact same thing. So it's the stars are always parallel with the ground. That is to say, the sky is flat.
Well, see, the thing is, that image that was up, the stars do arc through the sky. They rotate around Polaris, so they are on an arcing path. That image did not show a 90 degrees on a curved surface. It showed the arcing path of a star and a 90-degree angle to it. You see what I'm saying?
Sort of, because the arc that you're now describing is a horizontal arc, like a merry-go-round rotates perpendicular on an axis. The stars could be described in the same way, but they're still parallel with the ground in spite of their, I don't know if you'd call it lateral movement, because it's not really, it's cyclically described as opposed to just left to right.
Azimuthal movement.
Azimuthal movement, yes, of course it is. It's in degrees, about a point, yes. And it's even about the North Star. It's very specifically azimuthal.
Right. Yeah. So that image, I always looked at it and I was like, is it? I think it's just you know, an illusion of a curved surface. There is no curved surface there. It's a flat circle, an angle to the star, and an arcing path along the azimuth.
I've loved that image and used it a lot over the years. And that is the one thing that I've had trouble trying to explain to them because you can see that it looks like it's arcing, but they do give 90-degree angle marks for both zeniths.
Precisely, you can't have 90 unless it's with respect to a plane.
Good morning.
Up only works. Good morning. Up only works on a globe.
What only works on a globe?
Up.
Up only works on a plane. What are you talking about? Up is perpendicular to a plane, 90 degrees to the planar surface we measure. That's what up is. Is it following on from the sarcasm of...
I got a map here that says that everything south means down, but everything north means up.
So the fallacy of wrong direction, you mean? There's a fallacy where it's ascribed that the verticality for either degrees or directionality, that's up and down, is equal to or capable of description with something that's only described in the horizontal, that's azimuth. So azimuth is the description from north in degrees. So you have a convention with a single absolute direction, that's where the needle of the compass, which is leveled to the plane of reference we are using it for direction with, is pointing at. And from that direction, that's north, the only absolute direction, you can describe degrees from it and then create conventions like the opposite direction, which is south, 180 degrees, with respect to that horizontal only directionality we have used to expand the territories. Up, that's not north. No. That's got a fallacy named after it, specifically with respect to maps and mapping, when you falsely ascribe directionality in the horizontal to verticality for directions like up when talking about north. North isn't up. That's north. Right? South is 180 degrees with respect to it. When you describe it in a convention, we call that azimuth. Directions are a flat earth prerequisite. Any direction is only ever capable of being described and will only ever be described with respect to a plane. So in the pre-show, we were talking about the delays that have befallen my book, which will be out in a couple of weeks. But one of them, the most recent, or probably not the most recent, I sent off some photographs more recently, but previous to that, I got the book back in a format that was ready to read and distribute. And I read through it and went, I do want to make a change to this. So I changed one of the specific chapters about this very subject and incorporated a very recent anecdotal event with a fellow YouTuber who copyright striked me after having his useful information with regards to accurate millimetre measurements from sea level when mapping and charting the topographical deviations for the land with maps. Now, after the copyright strike, this particular individual then thought it would be reasonable to enter into a conversation with me, a man who's just threatened the ability to feed his kids with his show that he does daily for a video that had had less than 1,000 views, about a discussion with regards to up being north. Well, no, that's literally a fallacy called the wrong direction fallacy. So with that in mind, I wanted to make alterations to that particular chapter. Which chapter? The molten iron core chapter. Why? Well, because the molten iron core is a subterfuge for the prerequisite horizontal directionality from north with azimuth described in degrees. It's a flat earth measurement for direction. That's how we have expanded the territories. But so that never gets highlighted, we can argue about whether or not a molten iron core is at the temperatures that are facilitating magnetic fields in the vertical with respect to an axis. Also a flat Earth prerequisite to describe rotation. But that aside, the distraction and subterfuge is from the now vertically orientated, incapable of being described with azimuth, pole that runs through a presupposed spherical Earth, alleged to give us magnetic fields in the vertical when describing north at the top of a... No, it's not. But that's why we've got this subject. So we can endlessly argue about whether or not Theia smashed into Earth at a glancing blow, introducing an increased sized molten iron core so it fits within the heliocentric bullshit timeline to give us a vertically orientated magnetic field when the only practical use for anything to do with direction will always be, and can only be, horizontal. Earth's measured flat for directions. That's why we have a subterfuge of the molten iron core, hence me wanting to introduce Wayne, specifically from the map reading company, into the rhetoric of the book to explain how even seemingly rationally minded map utilizers and educators will fall victim to their own religious belief that literally has a fallacy named after it. The wrong direction fallacy. I'm done. So yeah, that was added in. So you'll read about that in the book when you get to that particular chapter called The Core. And you'll know why. And you'll be like, oh, this was definitely worth delaying to have this introduced into the chapter. And hell yeah, I agree. And again, I want to shout out people who've recently supported me. I've been pointing out to my audience, if you have the financial means to support me and what I do daily on this channel, including but not limited to things like writing books, then when there's things like this delay, for whatever reason, my publicist hasn't got back to me for about a week, but I'm not going to put pressure on him. He's doing what he's doing when he gets time to do it. And I'm happy that he is assisting me in getting it out to the public via the ebook format that it'll eventually reach initially an audience with. So I don't want to chase him. I don't want to pester him. He's doing what he's doing and it will come out when it comes out. But I'm also less inclined to, admittedly, probably irritate him when I say, yeah, I've made changes. And he's like, I formatted that. It took all afternoon. Now you're telling me there's a new version of it. And you're like, no, I'll get my wife to tell you because I'm a coward. Paula, can you tell him that we have changed it? But yeah, these delays are worth it. And I'm being told by the panel that that's by provenance, that we're having these alterations made and delays made so that the end result, the product, the book itself, is offerable to Joe Public for them to read and go, I understand. There's a fallacy of false direction employed when you suggest that Earth, with a core and a pole running through the centre of it vertically, gives us the axis of directionality that's actually only ever capable of being detailed horizontal, and how it's practically applied to Earth's planar surface when you level a frickin' compass. So yeah, that's the Molten Iron Core chapter. Hopefully you all enjoy it when you finally get to read it.
Nathan.
I just find it fascinating that things are happening the way they are. And I tend to connect dots and kind of put puzzle pieces together and take kind of separate things and find out there's some connection. And it's been fascinating for me over the past few months that whatever we've been talking about in our excitement over the book and refining points and, you know, going over the Feast of Nonsense and stuff like that, to point out how ludicrous the whole debate is, when the fact is this is how we've always measured the Earth and let's move on. That as we get closer and closer to publishing, I'm seeing more and more social media, specifically Facebook, that's where I'm mostly at, and YouTube, that are addressing things that would not have been addressed even a year ago. And a lot of the Facebook troll groups that are just, it's painful to read, other than just for research. I'm just doing this for research. The cognitive dissonance nonsense, sophistry, that a huge percentage of these people who are replying, I don't even know if they're real, to stupid points like this one I posted of, this guy looking at a map that is asking flat earthers to explain down to me. No one would have thought to even think of that question until even a few months ago. Because the question doesn't even make sense unless it makes sense to me why they're posting it, but then I'm realizing there's somebody looking at this thing for the first time, and they're in an official flat and globe Earth discussion, and they look at this picture, and I can't imagine a normie looking at this.
They've said it before.
What the hell?
I've heard that a while ago.
Hey, yeah, probably 2 weeks ago, and you were the first one to see it, I'm sure.
They said they talked about South years ago.
Right, but they need to convolute south and north with up and down so that they can confuse up and down with in and out.
Correct.
Well, they're also still hooked on the Antarctic being at the bottom of a ball. There's already this is an early post. It was only done 10 hours ago, and there's already 30 comments on it. Most of the comments are related to whether you can go to Antarctica or not.
What I'll give you is they're talking about it a lot more.
Yes.
So what is it like? If Antarctica, then Earth's a sphere? Is that what they're trying to postulate?
Yes. Yes. If Antarctica,
Exactly.
then automatic assumption of the antipodal south, when south is an orientation with respect to north in the horizontal.
Yeah, I mean, here's
Exactly.
here's one of the comments. How does your east-west navigation work in the southern hemisphere where the North Star isn't visible? Also, why is the North Star not visible in southern latitudes? That's a typical comment. Magnets require two poles. The needle aligns with Earth's magnetic field that has two poles. You can't point in any direction in a flat fantasy without simultaneously pointing towards the edge.
Now tell me that.
Okay, Wayne.
Hold on. Now tell me by providence it isn't that I've altered this chapter to specifically and directly address this automatic assumption of a vertically orientated pole for magnetic fields. No. Just because we've gone beyond the elevation angle minimum of the North Star, another means of measuring that direction horizontally, does not mean that north and south as a convention suddenly alter, or that beyond that limit of an angle measurement from a flat plane to Polaris, we suddenly go underneath the edge of a presupposed sphere. No, south's still flat even beyond the measurement minimum of Polaris. We're still traveling in a flat direction with azimuthal directionality that is only capable of ever being described as horizontal. That's what azimuth and north are. What's that? Oh, we went beyond the measurement minimum of Polaris. And does that mean we weren't carrying on in a flat orientation with the direction when we travel away from that direction opposite to it in a horizontal orientation 180 degrees from north? No, I'm assuring you that's still a flat convention that we will use for directionality and have used to expand the known territories into these areas that you now want to assume are antipodal. No, directionalities aren't antipodal in the vertical. On the contrary, opposite direction to north is 180 degrees in the horizontal with azimuth. It's called south. At perpendicular, horizontal with respect to a plane, you can describe within a convention other directionalities like east and west with respect to north from your current position, when the only absolute direction with respect to the north is and can only be horizontal. Earth's flat for directions. All this does is convolute horizontality with verticality to assume a sphere.
May I ask if anyone knows in the south, below, not below, but beyond the equator, do their compasses turn around all of a sudden?
No, north is still north.
Then what are they talking about with two poles?
Yeah.
Don't even make sense.
It doesn't make any sense when I break it down. So we're looking at a compass, north, and we also have within that same convention a star that we can measure. As we back away from it, the compass has always been orientated parallel with the plane, and north is always pointing horizontally. And the degrees in an azimuthal convention from north are always horizontal, in degrees, horizontal to the plane you level the tool to. But when you get to the minimum of the light that you can also use for the same convention, you're saying that suddenly we're at the bottom of a ball? No, that's utterly idiotic. But that's why we have discussions about things like molten cores, because rather than identifying the flat-only directionality beyond a minimum angle measurement off a flat plane to a star, in this case Polaris, it's still flat. The measurement that you got to the minimum, the convention of the equator for you to ask about this position that you suggest is hemispherical, only the view of the stars is ever going to be described with that protractor that you've bastardized into a glorification of a protractor with degrees measured on a pretty map on a ball. But the degrees are with respect to the plane, and beyond the minimum elevation angle of Polaris, south is still 180 degrees in the horizontal with respect to north on a compass. Now, if you're going to say that, there's been some hanky-panky beyond the minimum of Polaris, really, I don't care, I'm not a cartographer. Compasses don't suddenly alter how they function beyond Polaris's minimum measurement. That's absurd.
Also, Nathan, in the south of the equator, in celestial navigation, you're still using stars in that area to obtain, elevation angles from sea level. Still
Exactly.
measured flat.
Yeah, I've had that discussion recently in one of the debate platforms. I can't remember which one, but in the south, we still use the exact same convention to find our way. That is to say, we still use navigation stars in the almanac. Beyond the minimum angle from a flat Earth of Polaris, there are other stars that we use to measure Earth flat with angles from surface level in what we call the south, which is flat and opposite to north and sod all to do with a reified ball that's extrapolated out by sandwiching two star models antipodal with a derivation of a minimum elevation angle measured off a flat Earth to Polaris to form an equator at the centre point of reified ball conventions so that we can put them in orbital motion. We're still going to measure Earth flat to derive radial values. South will still be horizontal, but obviously we can mathematically infer sphericity with two separate systems based antipodal in a mathematical convention and then put it in motion around the sun based on Keplerian out-of-the-box thinking. I mean, it doesn't mean that we've ever measured these stars anything other than flat. Elevation angles, that's elevation from surface, angle, two straight lines meeting at a vertex, with a star, they're still going to be exactly what this depicts on screen. That would be to say that you, inside a glorified protractor, measuring angles from a plane, is how you've created a ball for you to believe that you're going to somehow bastardize a horizontal direction convention into a vertical pole running through a ball that's derived from measuring the angles thusly off a flat plane? No, you just don't understand the mathematics of creating a ball from a flat plane to reify it into existence and then have it moving around the sun. That's just a religious belief passed down from the Roman Catholic Church 500 years ago to you numpty dipshits who need to be kept control of and not be worrying your precious little minds about anything other than working till you die. Don't worry about how the stars work. You're on a ball. Why? Because we tell you we are. Now, the fact that to achieve said ball, you need to measure Earth flat for minimums that create conventions like the equator, for us to continue beyond them flat, but then for idiots who've been told they're on a ball to think that that somehow means they're moving antipodal from a north pole that's vertical. No, north is flat. Yeah? You're working outside of the convention given to you by Kepler, Copernicus, and Huygens when you think that you're moving on a ball around the sun. No, you can only be in a ball in these Copernican mathematics of orbital elliptical motion, Not on a ball, in a ball. In the fiery pits of hell, beyond the Curie point, when we fail to argue for the fact that directions are flat. But if we argue about whether we've got a horizontal pole talked about in the vertical, because that's what the magnetic pole is, and no, we just use the field lines horizontally for direction. Nothing changes beyond the Polaris minimum measurement off a flat Earth. Earth's measured flat for directions. Go on, John.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I have never heard anyone say that they used south on a compass. The compass always points north, even when you're in, south of the equator, right? Like, it still points north, and that's how you determine your direction.
Exactly.
So I didn't understand why he said we had two poles if you only ever measure one.
It's a good point. I would assume that there's been a certain degree of gerrymandering of the maps south of the equator. Why? I don't care. Every convention ever used ever to navigate, chart, measure Earth's surface with respect to mapping of any design was always utilising flat Earth as a prerequisite to measure, to describe the direction, to measure the angles to the star, to create conventions like the equator. Earth's measured flat for every single bit of it. So to describe south as though it's a pole, no, north is how we use a compass. Beyond the North Star, we don't have that convention. Now, if you're going to suggest that we have a South Pole star, you can feel free to argue about how flat we would measure elevation angles to a star that's both claimed to be non-visible, visible at a point that we can't see, about which it is suggested we have another flat plane R sky description for angle measurements to southern navigation stars. Sigma Octantis is not one of them. There's only one pole star. There's only one north. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, the point that they call Sigma Octantis is not fixed either. That's where they get their wobble from when they talk about the Earth having a wobble. That's
right.
why.
Yes,
Well, that's also why they have to argue that the North Pole star wobbles a little bit. If they can argue that it makes a little bit of a circle, then that's how they can hold on to the Sigma Octantis wobble.
I mean, who cares? If it wobbles or if it doesn't, the North Star ties in with the convention of north in terms of magnetic directionality taken with a compass. These two are alleged to be tied at the hip. That is to say, if you travel to what is alleged to be the GP or ground position of Polaris, it is alleged that the North Pole and that point are connected together. Now, there's also a load of conspiracies about Mount Meru and channels going in and rivers and even aliens like the Scandinavian Nordics. Sound familiar?
Yeah, Nathan, you can find out about that behind the paywall.
Nevertheless,
I seen that there was a big magnet. I seen there's a big magnet there in the north. That's what them flat earthers say. It's a big magnet.
Yeah, you've got it. There's a lot of what would you call it? Propaganda around this region. Nevertheless, these two conventions are tied at the hip, and both of them are horizontal, talking about an angle declination as you recede from the point where you'd have the star at your zenith. As you recede, that's to say back away from it, you've got a convention where both the compass would rotate about its position, the vertical axis that the compass orientates itself to the magnetic field with at north. That's what it's designed to do and how it functions and is utilised to create the maps. Now, they're horizontal, both of those conventions. What, an angle from a flat plane to a GP 90 degrees to your position for latitude? Yeah, that's a flat plane measurement. What's that? When we go beyond its minimum, we can't see it anymore. Yeah, we still use azimuthal directionality from north, though. That's how it functions, regardless of whether or not you say it wobbles in the sky. What, in the planar sky that circles about an axis also azimuthal with respect to the North Pole star? Flat, so you can derive elevation angles for positional information in the almanac with respect to time that's also measured off a planar surface. Yeah, everything we've ever done or any convention ever related to Earth were all derived from flat Earth measurements. There are no exceptions. All the globe is a glorified protractor. Here it is.
Well, how does that explain how you're a demon?
It doesn't. I was only called a demon because I was absolutely beating the living daylights out of a load of ball believers in a neutral platform where I had no control over any mute buttons, and they're trying to chat skank through me 5 at a time. Didn't work. They still all had their asses handed to me. Ergo, I'm a demon.
But you're right, Nathan. It's always been measured flat because we've been given sea level to start with. We've only had the level baseline, the 0 degree baseline called mean sea level, which is used for all elevation profiles on Earth. That was there in the beginning, I think. I was remembering who said it. Who said, "Oh, it was click OK" when it said, "Watch how you term your words." As far as we know, sea level has always been here and level, and that's been the measuring base for all measurements going forward. It was given us levelness was here, and we've used it. Right. We've utilised it.
As far as we know, right? As far back as we can go. But Nathan, I've heard that pisses them off when you call it a glorified protractor.
Well, it is.
You're ignoring the other side. You're ignoring the underneath part.
I don't care if they get pissed off with what their globe is. Their globe is a glorified protractor. If you don't like the degree measurements on it for latitude, then don't use them. Shout out to Crystal Clear. I think I'm saying that correctly. It says from Germany. Keep smacking these globe heads, Nathan. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Crystal Clear. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
That's another thing. There was somebody that came in your Uncut and After show yesterday, sent you a super chat, and was wanting to find out how he could support you.
Yes, I did actually take a screenshot of exactly that because I wanted to shout them out. So somebody actually supported me on the heavily unviewed second channel. So the views on the second channel are horrendous, like the single-digit figures, which is just a testament to how heavily censored I am. Nevertheless, somebody still entered into that chat and sent me a $50 super chat yesterday. So I occasionally will pop in to keep an eye on the stream, make sure nothing's untoward or it's working and everything else. But yesterday I went in and Neil was like, "Oh, I don't know how to." But somebody asked, Michael Raw asked, or he didn't, he just said, "Thank you. Thank you for all you do. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate what I've learned from you." Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Michael Raw. So this particular individual was saying, "How can I support you?" And then he just sent a super chat in the end, and Neil responded. But below all of those videos and below this video, there's a Coffee link and PayPal link. So some people despise PayPal and don't want to use it. Fair enough. That's why Coffee's there. PayPal link is there for the same reasons. But if you wanted to support me and you do have the means to do so, use one of those links. Just send me money. Don't stand on ceremony either. This is how I pay the bills. Not through ad revenue, not through views, not through having subscribers. You know, in many ways, it doesn't matter that the second channel is so heavily suppressed. Obviously, it's nice when you get a $50 super chat on your second channel, but nevertheless, it's not necessarily that important. I survive with the support of people who are really kind and generous. So as an example, yesterday, I had one of the patrons, which is Level Plain Poem, support me. So I keep meaning to get to these. 3 of the 4 books that Tamara sent me. So I've gone through these, and she's done all sorts. She's given me handwritten notes on each of the books to point me in the direction of where to go. You can probably see down the side. Hopefully the light catches these. She's put tabs for all of the relevant sections in each of the books. This is what somebody who's paid for these books to be sent to me from the States at great expense, paid duty to get them into me, and still sends me money to support the show. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because, you know, these are all addressed to individuals. So this one's to my eldest daughter, Eleanor. There was one that was a bit more basic that was from my younger daughter, one addressed to my wife, one addressed to me. Like I say, all with nice personalised handwritten notes inside, tabs for all the different parts that were relevant to me specifically. Beautiful. You couldn't ask for much more. Well, she sent me a Ko-Fi link yesterday, or a PayPal, whatever, I can't remember which one. But she's like, thank you very much. I see you doing shout-outs and explaining that you live off the support of people like myself. Well, she's a frequent donator and a Patreon, and she's sending me stuff that's got handwritten notes. Well, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it, because it's flattering beyond most people's comprehension when that's the type of support that you get. But that's what happens when you get suppressed. People recognise what's happening. They know that I don't appear in subscription feeds, and I'm certainly not being recommended to anybody who's not already at least slightly acquainted with me. So people like that go, I will support you financially, I will hit the PayPal link. And several people have done that, and I've sent them thank yous. But with like a £5, £7, somebody sent me a tenner, somebody sent me 20 quid. Like, it makes massive amount of difference when people do that. And if it doesn't mean a great deal to you to send someone like me a £5, please do so, because it makes a massive difference to me. And it also means that things like incorporating the wrong direction fallacy with an interesting and amusing anecdote to go along with it can come to fruition in a book that's yet to be published. Because in spite of the fact that I do want it to be published, I want it to generate a revenue stream for me, I can go, well, I know this is going to cause a delay, and I'm going to do it anyway. I want it to be the best possible product at the point of publication that I can possibly produce. Now, if that means that delaying it slightly by incorporating something that only happened about a month ago into one of the chapters because it's completely relevant, interesting and amusing because it's got a new character and people love talking about people, but also with a specific example that breaks down how the molten iron core has been used to offer a subterfuge for the fact that directionality is horizontal, by having us argue about the verticality of a magnetic field and whether its properties would be in existence or not, based on Theia smashing into Earth at a glancing blow, increasing the core and increasing the temperature to a point where it wouldn't, or maybe would, generate magnetic fields if it was self-perpetuating. All of the above, ignoring the very fact that we measure Earth flat for directionality in azimuth, with a compass, and north. And the equator itself is derived from these prerequisite elevation angle measurements in this instance. All of the above are flat Earth only measurements. We just have to have subterfuge and distractions/red herrings introduced into the discussion so that flat earthers can argue about how the molten core is beyond the Curie point, when we assume that there is a molten iron core but it wouldn't work correctly, or that we've only dug so far down and we wouldn't know what was below there. Who cares? It's still being capable of being begged as a question of sphericity with a vertically orientated direction up and down for north and 180 degrees with respect to it, south. So I'm glad that I can do all those things. I'm in a position where, because of the support of people like Tamara, sending me really beautiful books with signed sections and tabs inside it, handwritten to each of my family, that is far more flattering than having 100,000 subscribers and getting a modicum of income from the ad revenue. I would much prefer to be in this position with dedicated fans. It almost brings a tear to my eye. I doubt there's very many YouTubers who feel like they've got such an outstanding, generous and beautiful community around them. Even when they've got 1 million or plus subscribers, there's a good chance that they still have a very limited community that would touch your soul if you were in the position I am in. So I'm flattered and extremely grateful to people like Tamara, to people like Len, to people who regularly support me. Michael, you know who you are. Thank you so much. It does genuinely bring a tear to my eye on more than one occasion because of the generosity of people who support me via things like the PayPal link, by the Patreon. Super chats are great too. Anyway.
Tamara's great. She even took care of me for my birthday and sent me the same books. I didn't get personalized notes to all of my children, but I got some personal notes. You got a great community here. And you know what? 5s and 10s add up, right?
Absolutely. That's what I survive on. People's 5s and 10s. And like I keep saying, when I talk about whether or not you have the financial means to actually do these things, what I mean by that is I'm poor. So I obviously relate to people who are like, I can't afford to give you £5. All right, I totally get it. Yeah, neither can I. Neil's birthday just came and went, and the best I could do was shout my audience out and go, by the way, I'll put a link to Neil's PayPal if you want to support him for his birthday and say a thank you. And people did. And I got thanks for it. And I'm like, I didn't give you a dime. I'm poor as frick. I haven't got any money. I haven't got a pot to piss in. So, I'm not going to be giving you anything, Neil, I'm afraid. And, but that hasn't meant that I've had to chase my publisher over the last week, getting on his nerves when he's no doubt doing other things. Or maybe just doing the book. I don't know. I don't want to pester him to find out. But only because people like Tamara, people like Len. So a couple of days ago, I went into the Worldwide Debates server, and Len's just coming up with excuses to give me money, right? He's saying, well, he is. He wants to support me, but he also wants to motivate me. He's very, very generous. He's never asked for anything in return ever. And in this instance, he's even doing it in an altruistic way. He's saying your videos would be easy to share if you went in and you didn't swear at them all. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Well, that doesn't help him. I'm sure he hasn't got easily offended ears. I've heard him swear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he said it makes no difference to him, but like you say, he's looking for reasons to give you money, which is cool. Len's a good dude, man. You got a good community here.
Absolutely. That's the thing. That's the main thing, right? I want to be a YouTuber, so I want to produce videos. But at the point that I thought I was going to be able to produce videos, I didn't ever dream that I would end up building a community. In fact, I've been quite standoffish towards that notion and said, no, it's not a community. We don't really have a community. Of more recent times, I've said, look, I'm inconsequential to this subject. I'm not the arbiter of it. I'm not guru. I don't have any arbitration over gravity, over linear measurements, over miles, over anything really. It's none of it's down to me. Me talking about it and comprehending it doesn't make me the arbiter of it. So in many ways, I try and distance myself from gathering up people around me like I'm some freaking guru. And in many ways, I'm even demeaning others who do that currently and going, it was going to be measured flat anyway, right? If I hadn't have had this show today, right, and I'm still trying to hold back tears because I don't want to be embarrassed by, literally breaking down in tears in the middle of a live show because I'm so touched by my audience and what they have done for me over the last 10 years. But it is sincere, that is genuinely how I feel. But when you're talking about these people who are in Flat Earth that have also, as I did, built up a channel, you don't picture the idea of having a community that interacts with you in such a way. And every time I get a donation, I typically get a message that says something along the lines of, you've really helped. What you do makes a difference. Now, is it making a difference to the people en masse? Well, no, I haven't got 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million subscribers. And maybe I never will. But it would never matter. I'm not in a position to have to chase things to get money. I'm still paying the mortgage. The lights are on. And that is only because of the people around me. Now, I'd have disappeared very, very quickly if I was a ball believer making ball-believing videos, because no one would be that concerned about keeping me going when I'm just making videos about the standard fare rhetoric that you could find from 100 other different places. What I do is evergreen and genuinely unique. And, it touches, I hope this is the reason, it touches the hearts of the people that do support me. They're like, no, I do genuinely value you doing this day in, day out for years and years and years on end, and slowly progressing the argument to the point where hopefully the majority of my audience now can turn around to next man, should the situation arise, and say, well, it's not that big a deal, it's just measured flat in all instances. Now that actually happened. I'm very proud of this, in a nonchalant way, with a lot of interruptions on a neutral platform, neutral in name only, lead my opponent, a ball believer, to break down the position of a flat earth by necessity and prerequisite through his understanding, whilst trying to describe it as being logical or being an argument, and me saying, no, it's not logic, no, it's not an argument, it's just measurements in prerequisite. What I might actually do is actually dig out that particular clip, because at the moment it's members only, so you won't actually be able to hear that. But I will actually play that to the audience so you can hear exactly what I'm talking about.
So you've proven that the Earth's flat because the measurements themselves, in order to need to be taken, in order to discuss elevation, need to be vertical, which is in relation to a horizontal plane, which by default accepts the axiomatic reality that we live on a horizontal plane.
Yeah, Earth is measured flat in all circumstances. In this particular circumstance, to describe dispersion of gases with respect to the plane of reference we call mean sea level, with altitude, that's a flat Earth prerequisite description of a measurement to describe that process. Yes. Now I'm going to play it again, because that might have slipped you by, because it's right at the beginning of the clip. I'm going to present it on screen. I only trimmed this out today. It plays through in a circle, so I want you to all pay close attention to what the ball-believing opponent summarises. Yes. To summarise, Earth is just measured flat from sea level, flat Earth prerequisite measurement, proving beyond all doubt that Earth is flat because that's how it's measured to have this discussion. I was then told, in spite of me describing entropic dispersion of gases produced at ground level, that I hadn't answered some question that was meaningless. I yawned and said it was kind of dweeby and I didn't really care for it. Meanwhile, all the measurements were flat. That's what I've actually done so far. Just to recap what's happened.
I'm so sorry I missed that. Yes. So you've proven that the Earth's flat because the measurements themselves, in order to be taken, in order to discuss elevation, need to be vertical, which is in relation to a horizontal plane, which by default accepts the axiomatic reality that we live on a horizontal plane.
Yeah. Earth is measured flat in all. You all get that?
Yep. Now, who was that guy?
Think about eggshells.
I think that was eggshells, you know.
Yeah. Correct.
He's a baller.
I know he's a baller, but how can you the argument that we're having at the time relies upon everybody describing horizontal linear distance measurements and perpendicular altitude measurements. Why? Because that's the only way we can measure Earth, and it is the only way we do measure Earth. Earth is flat.
Yeah, and that was the way you summarized that was beautiful, Nathan.
Well, and he'll still say, I mean, he steelmanned it for you perfectly. And he'll still think in his head, just because we measure it horizontal doesn't mean it's
who cares?
Exactly, who cares?
Right, but no one. That's right. No one cares as long as you plant that seed. You're doing good. No one cares what he thinks it is, but other people standing around will hopefully hear and.
Oh, not even that. No, I know what you're saying.
No,
I don't even care about that. Let me just summarise it. No, I don't care if all of them get run over by buses tomorrow. They will have absolutely zero influence on azimuth, parallel eye level, linear direction as being used in this discussion, perpendicular from sea level measurements of altitude. All of those flat Earth measurements existed before any of these dickheads existed. Me explaining to them how they are essentially in cognitive dissonance if they believe they're on a sphere is inconsequential. I don't care if they get this. And frankly, like I said earlier, I'm saying it with a bit more exasperation now, it matters not if I get it. Or, by contrast, if I get it so well that I can concisely verbalise it to you, the audience, so you do get it. Will you, having got it with my concise verbal explanation of how flat Earth can only be measured, make any difference to what a mile is, or what altitude is, or what eye level is, or what sea level is, or what barometric pressure is, or what dispersion with respect to a plane is, or what entropic dispersion is? No, I am not the arbiter of any of these things, and neither are you. So does it matter if this fart sniffer understands that he's using a parallel plane for altitude differential descriptions when describing how entropic dispersion works, when his description, to try and put me, a YouTuber, on the spot, requires he describes linear distance and perpendicular planes for altitude perpendicular to it? No, those things would be required to describe altitude. If he's describing it to me, I'm describing it to him. He understands how flat Earth can only be to describe it. Or if none of the above happened at all, if none of us ever existed, altitude would still be vertical. It'd still be perpendicular to a plane. Sea level would, chances are, still exist unless every man, woman and child was wiped from the face of God's flat Earth. We'd still have sea level as an average, as a convention to describe altitude with respect to. Planes would still use barometric pressure from sea level. Altitude as a measurement in feet is still perpendicular to a flat plane. Everything about anything we ever describe with Earth measurement is always and can only be flat. That's how it is. So it doesn't matter if you get it. This is where I might piss people off and sort of relinquish the support that I'm trying to garner when I say, if you like what I do, hit the coffee link. Because I'm going to say something that a lot of people won't like. You don't have any influence over this. It matters not if you get it. Believe you're on a ball all you like, but that's a demonstration of ignorance. Ignorance of the flat measurements that are used to create your glorified protractor that you don't like me calling it out for. Well, I don't care if you like me saying what Earth as a ball is. It's based on how it's been measured to achieve the glorified protractor of a Earth with degree measurements called latitude on it, described as I diagrammatically showed earlier with a man inside a ball, describing the measurement of the degrees because that's how they're bleeding measured. So did it matter that I could summarise that beautifully? Did it matter that people don't like that their ball is never capable of describing in physical reality because you'd have to be inside it for the degrees on it to make any sense? No. It won't change that we've got a ball that's a glorified protractor, or that the flat Earth measurements used to create it are currently being denied by an entire Western world community, educated by the Roman Catholic Church, in a reification beyond the extent of the mathematisation invented by people like Kepler and Huygens. We still have a flat plane to measure to create that Keplerian, Huygens-scaled, Copernicus-invented, heliocentric derived model. We're just not in a ball, and we never will be. But that's how the maths works. Saying we're on a ball just means you're ignorant of how it was created and what's been measured to create it. Earth as a flat plane for angles from it, in this case minimum elevation angle of Polaris, derived from a flat plane measurement that's horizontal and also described with horizontal azimuth for directions. That's how we measure Earth. It's flat. Nothing you do will change it. Nothing I say will alter how flat Earth is being measured, and whether or not you comprehend it is irrelevant also. Sorry.
Yeah, but Nathan, it doesn't matter. We get that. But when a baller, all right, summarizes it the way Eggshell did, everybody's hearing that, Nathan. There's an audience that hears that, Nathan. So I think it's wonderful.
I think it's wonderful too, but more wonderful is the delight I get from people like Tam and people who give me money, because that keeps the lights on and mean that I don't have to end up, tearing my hair out that I don't have because I'm too poor to pay my own bills. What I am going to do is shout out all 4 of these books. So I've covered 3 of them and actually read poems from them. But I'm just going to name them as I have got them as an example for how delighted I am with the support I get from people like Tamara. But I'll name off the books so you can check them out for yourself. If you want to go on Amazon and buy one of them, then obviously I'm sure Tamara would be delighted that you pick up some of her material. So this one's called Level Plane Poem Flat Earth Explained. One of the books. Poems by Tamara Seville, or Cheville, I think it's actually pronounced. Next, we've got Flat Earth Fun Facts, again, with the title Level Plane Poem. Poems by Tamara Cheville. And third, we have Level Plane Poem Flat Earth Introduction. Again, poems by Tamara Cheville. And last but by no means least, we've got Flat Earth Fundamentals, again with the heading Level Plane Poem by Tamara Cheville. So check those out if you want to buy a copy of some of the poems. I'll flick to a random one and read it now, live on air. Clarification of down. As Nathan Oakley explains, down is a direction relation to a horizontal plane. On a globe, there is no down, just in towards the centre of the ball's domain. Down only works on a flat Earth, running perpendicular to a plane. I've got goosebumps reading this. I had no idea this was going to be the one I flicked to randomly. How epic. By providence, you say. Down is always 90 degrees vertical to a baseline. Horizontal, straight and level it will remain. There is no globe model since science can't replicate a small-scale 3D demonstration of sticky water on a sphere spinning 1,000 miles per hour or gas pressure held on a ball in a vacuum. It just exists in their imagination. So that's clarification of down, and it's got me named specifically. Like I say, I knew it would have me named because Tamara's gone out of her way to put little tabs on the pages. But that's, as I say, clarification of down. And that particular poem was in the book called Level Plane Poem, Flat Earth Fundamentals. So check it out.
I got one you didn't get, Nathan. I got from the same lady, Nuclear Weapons, Truth Bombs, and Explosion of Lies.
Oh, so 5 recommendations. Can you give that title again, Neil, so at least comes out a couple of times so people can look it up?
Yeah, it's entitled Nuclear Weapons, Truth Bomb, and Explosion of Lies. Hacking Hoaxes poems by Tamara Chevelle.
Awesome. So there's at least 5 books out there under the heading Level Playing Poem, and you probably hear me shouting out Level Playing Poem at the start of each of the after shows if you're one of the 5 to 10 people watching on the second channel, or you're a member, as they do go out to members immediately after they get recorded. So yeah, if you might as well plug that as well. If you did want to watch the Uncut and after show, then go and subscribe to my second channel. Undersubscribed it is not, underviewed it definitely is. It's got almost 10,000 subscribers, ends up with single digits on any premiering stream. But it's basically what goes out to members about 10 days after the fact. So members get the pre-show where often in the beginning of a live show, I'll point out what we've been discussing prior to the live show starting. And then once the live show finishes, I continue to record in case there's any stragglers in the wings that don't necessarily feel they have the courage to discuss an aspect of the nature of Earth. That would be its flatness, indeed, its current rhetoric of measurements being flat in the live show. So they have the opportunity to then pipe up after the fact in the after show. But if you remember, you can check that out immediately. Once the recordings are finished, I immediately upload them, and it's just a case of the processing time before you get to watch them. But then, like I say, about 10 days later, you can watch them for free over on my second channel, which is called Nathan Oakley. And the Nathan Oakley channel, as I say, is almost 10,000 subscribers and publishes the Uncut and After Show for free. So check it out at Nathan Oakley, which is linked below this video if you're watching live. Or if you're not. All right, I've got about 5 minutes left. Really hot under these lights. I'm going to put the fan on. I've got my dynamic mic out today, so I can have the fan on without it hopefully putting any horrible interference into my close proximity microphone. Same goes for having the kids running around. Good.
Well, Nathan, it's at the point now where when the book comes out, it comes out. Right? That's where we're at. So when it comes out, it's going to come out. But, I mean, it's eventually going to come out, but stressing over it ain't going to help. When it comes out, it comes out.
Yeah, and when it does, I'll be delighted to go out on the road and start publishing it. The real hard work does start when it comes out, but between finishing it and then having an ebook produced, making an extra edit, which really I shouldn't have done, but I'm glad that I did, annoying my publisher to no end, I mean, no doubt. But nevertheless, you know, the annoyance of my publisher aside, the most recent endeavour was to get pictures of a high resolution into the book, which my wife dutifully sent individually rather than in the actual text, along with all of the rest of the book formatted in Word. So that's been done. That was the last communication I had. That was about a week ago. I did get in touch and say, do you want to have a phone call on like video before we publish the book? That was my last communication with him. I haven't had a response in regards to that, but I don't really want to chase him. It'll come out when it comes out, and I'll be happy when it does. That, you know, the edits have been made as best as I can possibly do. If people get in touch with me and say there's a full stop missing here, I'll be like, thanks for letting me know, give me a page number and I'll get it corrected in the ebook format. So to a certain degree, there is an element of cheating. That is to say, you can publish it and still make corrections on the fly if it's only in an ebook format. Partly one of the reasons why I want to do it in that way is to exploit as many people financially as possible to get the book in an ebook format as the only available methodology of getting it. And then once that, if it does take a dip, it might just grow, who knows. But if it does take any dip, that'll be the point to rejuvenate interest by bringing out a paperback. And then following that, you bring out a hardback, and then you do signed copies. In other words, you do the sort of Taylor Swift approach of monetizing it at the highest level when it's brand new, and then introducing more expensive derivatives and marketing it in a more advantageous way financially. So it's just a product. I do just want to monetize it from that perspective. Obviously, I want the material inside it to be of a higher quality to anything else that's currently available, and I would hope I've achieved that. I will reserve judgment in terms of blowing smoke up my own ass too much until I get a few comments as feedback, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people out there that want to immediately demean it as being garbage simply because they don't like their rhetoric, their current religion of a heliocentric world that they're standing in. I mean, on being challenged. But we'll see. I'm sure I'll get some feedback almost immediately when it does come out. But I can't imagine it'll be any more than, I don't know, a couple more weeks at the most.
2 weeks, you say?
A couple of weeks.
22nd of June.
It might come out tomorrow for all I know, right? It might be the case that tomorrow I get an email from my publisher and he goes, here you go, it's done. Check it out. I'll be like, can I publish it? It's like, it is published. It's available on my site. You just have to tell people and then give them a link and they'll buy it. I'll be like, oh. And then tomorrow I'm like, link for my book is below. And then you hear the angels, ah. I'm sure there won't be any angels singing when the book actually does come out. It'll be with very little fanfare. Like initially, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people who are so keen.
Keep saying that. Why you say that?
Because
you're
there
going to promote it
What's
and
a
make
fanfare?
it big.
What's a fanfare? Do you know what a fanfare is?
Yeah, that means everybody's waiting for it. And when it comes out, there's a line of people that, like when Michael Jordan sneakers come out, there's lines around the block. I get that. But you promote it and, you know.
Yeah, well,
there will be a bunch of people.
That's where the hard work starts. That's what I'm saying. When it comes out, yes, there's people who will be watching the show. So how many people we got currently, right? Let's say it came out today. Then it would mean that I would make immediately 51 people aware. That's how many people are watching live right now. So 51 people, well, that might sell 5 books. So that's not exactly a massive fanfare. That's not people queuing around the block. But it does mean that there's enough initially for people to put the word of mouth out. Then I make a little advert. That might get 150 or 200 views as a shorts video. So that might mean I sell another couple of copies. And so it goes on, right? Then I go out to somebody's show and say, hey, by the way, you know, everyone's been talking about my book coming out. Links below. Let me tell you about it. And the idea would be that that particular person has already received a copy for free and has got an affiliate link below their show when they interview me. So the means to actually go out and promote it in a meaningful way have already been put in place because the publisher's already got an affiliate program in place and it's already effective and working and has been supplying people who are affiliates for other books with revenue when they haven't written them, in the same way I can exploit and utilize to get on people's show and offer them the means of earning money off the back of my book when it comes out. So that's where the hard work begins. That's why I'm saying there's no fanfare. Yes, I'm sure plenty of people immediately will read it and give me feedback within the same day. But that's not to say that it's immediately going to sell hundreds of copies. I would be very surprised if it sells more than a dozen copies in the first couple of days. Then I'll go out and promote it.
Their book sold freaking 18 copies in freaking an hour, all right? So you're selling yourself short here. Yeah, 51 people today, right? How many views did you say you had over the course of, you reached a certain amount of millions? I'm sure that's only these 51 people that gave you those millions of views. Nathan, it's people that listen to the show when they come home, also can't listen to it at work, and they hear it. So, you know, I'm telling you, I understand it's not going to be a big fanfare like your stars putting a book out, but the community that you have here and the ballers that will buy it and the anti-flat earthers that'll buy it, you'll see.
Well, I hope that's the case, Neil. I mean, if it can just keep the lights on so I don't have to keep e-begging as hard as I am currently. With that in mind, if you do have the means to support me, there's a PayPal link and Ko-Fi link below the video, and that is genuinely how I'm surviving at the moment, as I don't have a book to sell, and it isn't generating a revenue stream, so I am extremely poor, and do survive on the generosity of people who hit the PayPal link, hit the Ko-Fi link, join as a Patreon, smash the Super Chat. Those things are keeping the lights on, and long may that continue. It'd just be nice to not have to e-beg 4 times in one show.
Okay, so now, if that ever happens again, I direct the person to what link?
Underneath the show, any info box under any video or show of any importance. So the shorts I don't tend to bother with because it's not really easy to get to the info box, and even if you did, you couldn't click on anything. Whereas under any normal video, like I say in every single intro, like there's PayPal links and Ko-Fi links and Patreon links and crypto links. They're all below the video in the info box. Hopefully someone hears this very specific now, me saying it now, call to action and goes, yeah, I can afford to bung you 10 quid. No worries, that's not going to break my bank. And I do genuinely enjoy watching your show, and I have genuinely learnt how Earth is measured flat as a consequence of you doing this day in, day out for 10 years.
Yeah, it looked like he had just came in, right? Sent you super chat, but right before that, he was asking how he could support you. So I'm assuming that he's looking for other ways rather than super chat. So let's hope you got the proper information.
Yeah, you're talking about Michael Raw. So just to round out that particular conversation, on the other second channel, which is also linked below, if you did want to watch the Uncut and After show for free, that is to say you don't have to join as a member. You don't have to give me a dime. Everything that does come out or get recorded eventually makes its way to YouTube in one way or another. So even though currently there's about 3 or 4 dozen shorts videos, they will eventually get published to the public. Currently they're members only, as is the 8-hour debate stream that we dip into every now and again. Today I won't because it's a bit late in the live show. But if you did want to support me and you don't have the means to do so, the best possible thing you can do is go and watch a couple of the shorts videos. So in the home page for this channel, it might be the case that you're watching on the second channel if you're watching this after the fact. But if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, the shorts videos, I trickle out 1 or 2 at a time each day. And find one that you like. They're all sanitized, so there's no swearing in any of them, but they just make an excellent point, like the one that was just played. I'll play it again so you can hear what I'm talking about. This is an example of one of the shorts videos. All circumstances, in this particular circumstance, to describe dispersion of gases with respect to the plane of reference we call mean sea level. With altitude, that's a flat Earth prerequisite description of a measurement to describe that process. Yes. To summarise, Earth is just measured flat from sea level, flat Earth prerequisite measurement, proving beyond all doubt that Earth is flat because that's how it's measured to have this discussion. I was then told, in spite of me describing entropic dispersion of gases produced at ground level, that I hadn't answered some question that was meaningless. I yawned and said it was kind of dweeby and I didn't really care for it. Meanwhile, all the measurements were flat. That's what I've actually done so far. Just to recap what's happened.
I'm so sorry I missed that. Yes. So you've proven that the Earth's flat because the measurements themselves, in order to need to be taken, in order to discuss elevation, need to be vertical, which is in relation to a horizontal plane, which by default accepts the axiomatic reality that we live on a horizontal plane.
Yeah, Earth is measured flat in all circumstances. That's one example. I'll give you another example because it's the preceding, if that's the right word, conversation that led into that little shorts clip. So I'll just play this one. Fascinating dweeby stuff. Really interesting if you're a dweeb. Me, I'm not that interested in how gas disperses. Who cares?
If the pressure in laterally dispersed locations.
Laterally dispersed as in dispersed with respect to a plane.
Versus over a great sandy desert, for example, was very low levels of life and air being produced, right?
Very, very interesting. Anything else? And that's really what I'm here for. Sorry, that chuckled me. I shouldn't laugh at myself, but I thought that was funny. Anyway, those are the kind of examples of what you can share if you don't have the financial means to hit me up via the PayPal link or Patreon link, or join as a member so you can watch these sorts of shorts videos early. Go and find one that is published and share it. Just click the share button on it and stick it on your Facebook feed or stick it in your Twitter X feed. You know, those are the things that do support me in terms of the very limited, admittedly, ad revenue that I get from making these videos and trimming them out. And I do want them to be distributed, especially these shorts videos. We're at a point in the discussion where my, if you want to call it that, argumentation is so concise and so to the point that, like you've just heard, a believer in the ball can summarise the position so concisely after a requirement to use the flat Earth prerequisite measurements that they will be putting to me as though it's an argument. So I'm going, why do I care how gas is spread out? Is it because you fart sniffers want to smell your own stench when you describe gas and entropic dispersion with respect to a plane with altitude measurements from sea level? Because beyond them sniffing their own farts, who cares? It's boring stuff. But Earth's measured flat for it, and they're the ones using it. Right, any other comments? If not, we're going to round out this live stream. No? With that, I will say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
What would they say?
What the hell?
Yeah, so I said, this is what I said. Listen to what I said. I said, when a plane levels off at 30,000 feet and travels a distance of 200 miles, yes, Earth is flat to describe height over distance. So he said, I'm asking about number lines. And I said, I'm telling you about height over distance. It can only be described from flat planar reference, and it's measured with an altimeter. So I don't know why he's talking about measuring a line and seeing what the freak.
Well, he takes him away from the Earth, mate.
Yeah, it's
That
like
someone else will only see straight lines no matter what he measured.
Who cares? Exactly. It's a red herring. I mean, it'll be a flat Earth prerequisite if it's a red herring that's trying to divert with a flat Earth measurement, which they always are. But it's like asking about gas dispersion. At one point, I asked the guy, why is this being discussed? What does this prove? He's like, well, it proves that there's a difference in gas pressure over the Sahara versus over the desert, and the Amazon's got a higher pressure at ground level. And I'm like, really? That's so interesting. Who gives the shit that you think it's worth? Nobody is the answer. You're just a boring-ass dweeb. But you're using flat Earth measurements to make your boring assertion so that we don't have to measure how flat Earth is with your prerequisites that don't get mentioned as flat Earth.
There it goes. If you measure length over circumference, it will be straight there.
That's nonsense. A circumference isn't straight.
We got it cut.
Okay, so I'm taking my wife to work. Yeah. So I'm going to the ATM, and where can I find you? You're going to be over here?
Yeah, I'll be over there at the yard. Okay.
Should be
Are we looking? We're looking good. Yeah. What about back here, that whole bushy thing?
Get it shaved.
We can't get it there. That's the window.
Sticking up, and really high, and I can't get my ball.
I feel like Neil just totally fails and then makes us listen to his conversation.
Sorry, guys.
There we go.
Get that bushy thing
Neil.
shaved. Get it Hollywood. Oh, I'm glad we did this.
I was just going to say, I don't have room to talk. I accidentally put my camera on yesterday, I think, and I don't know how long I've been on.
It was a majestic beard.
Thank you. It's taken about 6 years to grow.
Almost as good as Flat Earthers. I've got to be honest, his is better. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't keep mine up really well. It's not a majestic beard just because the only people who look at it are sheep.
We got fishermen in the box.
Mine has grown into a salt and pepper one.
Oh, it's Flat Earthers here. I didn't know you were here. I was about to start talking about fishermen in a box, and you're right below him.
But I am starting to grow a salt and pepper one. Getting old. Yeah.
Getting old a bit. Yeah, between Fisherman in a Box and Surf Daddy, we could have a ZZ Top tribute band.
I trimmed down my majestic beard during the summer hot months, so it's not as majestic as the photo shows. But thank you.
Good job you're not Sikh.
Same here. Same here. I've also trimmed mine. You know, new job, new look, new city.
Should we take some bets on when you think the book will actually come out? I had 22nd from one deck.
Yeah. I'm going for the summer solstice, 22nd June.
What's that, about 10 days from now? 11 days?
Yeah, what we're on today, is either 11th or 12th today, isn't it? Yeah, 11th today, isn't it? Yeah, 22nd of June.
That would be awesome, and that would be a sign of providence. Let's just let it sit there, and let's not make any bets or talk about it. But wouldn't that be cool?
You didn't hear what I said. I said when the book's out, it comes out.
22nd would be cool, though. That would be a sign.
Oh, because the summer solstice thing?
Yeah, we're just putting out a fleece out there, Neil.
It's 4-1 odds. You just put it down on the spread, Neil. Don't worry about it. You don't have to pay a dime.
Yeah, we'll give you some credit on the bet.
Hey, Tony,
That.
put Neil down for 4-1.
Oh, you're making fun of my marker thing. It's called a marker.
I've called it
And
the
what you
spread.
do is you say, so there was this guy, Marty, right? Pearl Jam freak, one of the young kids, right?
Morty.
So listen, this kid, Marty, listen to what he was doing. He answers the phones and takes the bets. So, Nathan, you're betting, right? And I'm betting, right? You call up, you're hot, right? So you bet the Dallas Cowboys like 500 times and you're winning, right? I'm betting I'm losing. This guy decides this is how slick he was. So because you're hot, you call in a bet for 500 times. Now, when Marty takes that and calls it into the main office, he puts you down for 1,000 times, right? So now, because Marty gets all the money to pay everybody when they come. So now when you come to pick up your money, Nathan, you're only picking up 500 times. So you're picking up 500 plus the 500 you won 1,000. But he put the bet in for 1,000. So he's picking up $2,000 and giving you $1,000. But what happened was, Nathan, you got cold and you started losing. And it all caught up on him and blew up in his face. That's called skimming off the top.
Skimming off the top of the spread with the markers. Gotcha.
Yep. You just put an extra in. You're looking at the guy. And he was doing not just with one guy. He was, because he's keeping the books. He's answering a phone call. So he knows who's winning, who's losing, right? And he got greedy. And then he started, trying to scrambling to try and make a hole. Cost him his kneecaps. What are you going to do? Don't do that.
If you can't trust a degenerate gambler, who can you trust, eh?
But from the story I hear, he thought he was going to die. He was like, just tell my mother I love her, because they had to take him somewhere and they had to kneecap him. Otherwise, in that business, that's what you got to do.
It all sounds deeply unpleasant. Have all you guys been watching my shorts videos, or do you only watch them when I play them in the show?
No, I watch them. I watch all videos, even the ones where there's only 3 people.
Yes.
But, Nathan, you're right. It is evil. It is horrible, and it's evil. And I couldn't do that. That's why when I got into other things and they mess up. Let's tell you, how does one deck call it? Gear? When somebody messes up your gear? Now, you either got to do one or 2 things. Walk away and say, don't worry about it. And then they shit all over you and you're weak. And then they take advantage of you, or you hurt them real bad. So that's it. You got to make a decision right there. And if you hurt them real bad, then you're going down a dark path. So in my life, I decided at that time, I'm out. I'm not doing that.
No, it ties 2 things together. My grandma used to say gambling is the devil, but she also used to say never a borrower or a lender be.
Right, because a borrower is slave to the lender.
Yep.
Yep.
Never borrow money from people. Never lend people money.
Yeah, but that's why in that movie, The Godfather, that's why he was so against the drugs. Because he felt it's dirty business and you got to really do dirty things, whereas gambling was a harmless vice.
Right. Same with prostitution.
Right, yeah, prostitution. Yeah, threw that in there too. But yeah, it's just a dead end. The best way is, like we said yesterday, the honest way. Just honest living. That's it.
Yeah.
It lasts longer, and you have peace of mind.
You don't lend people money. You just give them money. If someone needs money, you give them money.
Exactly.
You don't lend them money.
You give them money with not expecting anything in return.
Exactly.
Right? Even if someone says, hey, can I borrow this from you? You got to give it with the intention of not getting it back.
Precisely. You go, no, here you go. Just have it. It's a gift. No problem. I'm sure one day you'll help me out. But you don't give it them with the intention that that's the reason. Like I intend to get it back some way out of you. You just give it them and say that's it now. That's yours now. Glad I could help.
It's the nicest way to give somebody some money would be to do it like, without them knowing you've done it.
Nah, I don't know. I like people to know I've given them money. I like to get a thank you.
There's a difference in letting people know and tooting your horn to everybody that you've done it.
Excuse me, can I just make a small announcement? I have been very generous. Can we all acknowledge that for a few moments? Perhaps a few moments of silence, I think, are in order. And then a profuse tirade of thanks in my direction, one at a time, if you don't mind.
And the other thing with that is the ones that are given out of their abundance. And when somebody comes like that, can't even like scrape two $5 bills together, but they give that to you. That's more than somebody giving you $1,000 because they have $1 million to give.
Yes, there's a parable about it. The beggar woman who goes to the front of the church and she puts a penny in the collection box and gets all the thanks and praise Jesus can offer. And the guy who's just walking out the church, having dropped 10 grand on the church, goes, "What the hell? She gave a penny. I gave about 10 grand. And Jesus breaks it down the way you just broke it down. It's like, to her, that's everything she has. That's her last penny. So to her, that's a significant loss. For you, you've given 1/10 of your 1% of your overall wealth to the church. To you, it doesn't mean anything. You're not going to miss that at all. 10 grand, who cares? Well, that's how I feel when people donate to me. Because most of the time, I am at least to a certain degree aware of what type of person they are. And they're not, obviously, I don't have intricate information about their financial circumstances. But most, if not all the people who support me are just normal people. They're not rich. Yeah, they're not in a position to say, oh, 10 grand, no worries. I mean, don't get me wrong. There has been once or twice that someone's dropped several £1,000s on me and gone, here you go. And I've gone, oh my God, I thought I was going to lose the house. And they've just dropped money on me and I haven't asked for it. It's just come. Like someone's just given me a huge chunk of money. That's happened a couple of times. Now, I'm in no doubt that, I am no more, in sincerity, no more or less grateful to the people who've given me huge chunks of money, to the people who give me a fiver. They all get the same reply. Thank you so much for your generosity. It really does mean a lot. Speaking of
Len is a perfect example of that in our little crew here, because Len will give with only a certain amount. So he actually is giving out of where it hurts, At least to me, did one time. I said, Len, man, are you kidding me? Don't do that. And he was like, nah, don't worry about it. I got other jobs coming in. But that's somebody that we're talking about, people that give and expecting nothing back in return.
Yeah, and it's just a gardener. I mean, I don't want to say just a gardener. I don't want it to mean what he does, but it's not like he's out there selling diamonds.
Right.
He's a gardener.
Exactly. He breaks his ass, right? It's a physical job. You're working with your hands. You're not like some freaking stockbroker, whereas, here, take a dose. You know what comes back to you too, right? If you're generous, you'll be rewarded. If you're tight, Same thing will happen. It's what you sow is what you're going to reap. If you're planting kernels of corn, don't expect to go outside and grab spinach. So if you're sowing generosity or, being there when somebody has a need, no matter what, even if it's $5, that's going to come back to you. Universal laws, or what you sow is what you reap.
Yeah. I mean, if I've got money in my bank and somebody's in need, I'll give them money if I can give them money. But I'm not giving it because I'm thinking this is karma. It'll come back to me. I never think about it in those terms, or try not to.
No, you don't. But it happens. That's what I'm saying. You don't even think about it in those terms. But without realizing, you're sowing generosity. You're sowing the seed of understanding somebody's in need. All right. I really don't have it, but I do have this. Right? So you're sowing that seed. So it's going to come back because you're planting that. You're not doing it intentionally. But hey, universal laws, God's laws.
Sometimes it works the other way. Sometimes people bite the hand that feeds them in that regard. So Arwin,
yep,
I used to regularly support him. I'd just bung him money if I had it. And he'd be like, I've run out of coffee. I can't even afford to buy a coffee. He'd be saying on his show. And I'd be like, here's a £5, or here's 10 quid or 10 euros or whatever it is I was sending him. Not huge amounts by any means, small amounts. But like, if you can't afford coffee, go and buy some coffee. Here's a £5.
Yeah, he frowned on that though. And that pissed me off too.
Yeah.
Like he's sick of the 5s and 10s. Did he think you were a millionaire or something? You were raking in the dough?
Not at all.
He thought he was essential to the show. That's what it was. And he should be getting paid. Sort of like a few authors I know.
Yeah. I mean, if I could pay everyone on the panel, I would, right? If I had the means at my disposal to keep everyone on the panel bunged cash. Because everybody on the panel's almost in the same boat as me. I reckon the divide between us is so small, if you put everybody in the world on a scale, we'd all be in exactly the same boat. All of us.
Yep. No doubt.
Well, I'm just driving past the flat Earth proof. I'm on the M62 summit, the highest motorway in England, and it's 372 metres above sea level.
Not exactly much, is it?
How do you measure that?
Not exactly much, though, is it?
No, but that is, I've just drove, I'm in terrible traffic at the moment. It's foggy, it's hailstoning, and I've just drove past that sign, driving at about 10 miles an hour. That's a flat Earth distance as well.
Wait, did you say it's hailstorming out?
Yeah, well, it's the highest point, so the temperature's just dropped by a couple of degrees, and it's foggy and sleety. But I'll be dropping back down from 372 metres above sea level shortly, so probably 250 metres above sea level. And it'll probably clear up a little bit. Don't know why I'm waffling on about all this.
It was so hot yesterday that I got a headache from being out. I had to take my wife and do a couple of things. The sun was so powerful. I went home and I had a bad headache. And it don't help that there's no air conditioning in the car. Because, you always go in the car, you crank that baby up. My wife asked, you guys have you have AC in the car, right? In England?
Yep.
Okay. It's just not worth it to have it in the house, you're saying. Oh, Nathan's saying.
What am I saying? Sorry, I was distracted by a phone call. What did you say?
You said it's not hot enough to get air conditioning. It's not hot enough long enough. But what about in your vehicle?
Yeah, we've got aircon in vehicles. My car's got aircon, or our car's got aircon.
Shit, I'd be going to the freaking car and cooling down, baby.
No, occasionally that is nice. Like I say, when I drive to various different classes, I get to drive in an air-conditioned car, which is lovely.
That's how I survived the blackout, when we had that blackout that everybody figured was a freaking a government operation. all the power just went off in the eastern seaboard. But it was very hot. It was summertime. We were going into the car and cooling down.
Bit like that for me the other week when we had the heat wave. I was working through the heat wave, but it was obviously I'm traveling from job to job, and when I'm in the work van, I've got the AC on, and then you're getting out the van, you're going into a supermarket. All right, you've got a breakdown to deal with, but on the supermarket, the aisles are quite cool because the refrigerators are spilling cool air over, sort of thing. So yeah, it was hot, but it was just nice to be out in the air-conditioned van driving around.
Hey, not to change the subject, but to change the subject, that poem book, The Nuclear Weapons, Truth Bomb, and Explosion of Lies, I was reading some of it. She's got a Sting reference in there. I'm starting to like, she's pretty cool. You got Oppenheimer's Deadly Toy. Now, if you know anything about music, that's a Sting lyric from Russians. How can I save my little boy? You know that song? From Oppenheimer's Deadly Toy. I like that she used the Sting reference. Very good, Tamara.
I was watching just some useless information, but I thought it was quite interesting. I didn't know this up until now. There was some guy going on about. He was just going. I think he was talking about azimuth and altitude using a compass, and I think he had some information where a certain star was. So he was, he could work out which direction from north using azimuth, and then. He went on to sort of explain that your human body can also help when navigating, and he was saying like if you hold your arm out horizontally, sort of under your chin, with the width of your fist, that represents a 10-degree angle above the horizon, and then if you put your fist back on, so you can put your fist on top of that, and that's 20 degrees angle. So I thought it was quite interesting, and he was sort of saying the human body's designed in that way where you can use it for angles and finding elevation with parts of your body.
I do that with time. If you put your hand out straight and you do about 4 fingers, just hold your hand parallel with your eyes and face, hold it up in the sky at the horizon. Every finger is about 15 degrees. No, not 15. 15 minutes. So if you've got the sun and it's about 4 finger widths above the horizon, you've got about an hour of sunlight left, basically.
I'm going to get Surf Daddy a watch.
Nah, no. I don't need one. Farmers don't need one. They just need to know when it's noon and about how long it is till sunset. That's how my sheep tell time. I might as well just go on their time.
Man, what if you don't hear them?
Never.
Hey, one thing.
You got to do Flatsy as a sheep. Come on, one day.
Brian, those no kiwi like that.
Oh, we gotta be careful if you're gonna get a husband after me.
Nah. I have noticed recently, I don't know if anyone else has or if they thought about it, but the light of the sun after sunset, it's not twilight, but I was out last night about 10:30 my time. The sun goes down about 9 o'clock, 9:10 now. Sun was fully down. It was about 10:30 coming on 11. And you could still see daylight to the northeast or the northwest. As if the sun had just fairly recently gone down. It was still light northwest of me. where the sun set until almost 11 o'clock at night last night. It was weird.
But that's not actually the sunset. It's a mirage.
So you say. It's interesting. Plus, Venus and Jupiter are way visible even just as the sun sets. I mean, the sky is still blue and dark blue, but just after the sun goes down, and it's still pretty light out. Venus and Jupiter for the past few weeks, if not month, have just been extremely bright and visible way before the sun, before twilight is done. It's weird. And with that, are we willing to entertain some speculation and just chit-chat for a second about something I thought about?
You don't have to ask permission. You can talk about whatever you like.
All right. Well, here we go. It's come to my attention that Jaron and Whitsitt noticed during their adventures that when the sun appeared to them in the southern sky as it was making its circuit, so they were looking up allegedly towards the south, the sunlight wasn't warming them at all. Very, very cold. And then as the sun moved around and they were looking north at the sun, then it was warm. Or warmer type of sun. So some people I've been speculating with, we're talking about the difference between the apparent and the actual sun that we see, and whether they saw an apparent sun in the south, to the south of them, as it was making its circuit, assuming that they went down to Antarctica and they saw the sun for 24 hours above the horizon. But they were looking south. Sun was cold, and when it made its appearance to the north of them, it was warm. Okay? So the speculation is that when it's warm, you're actually seeing the real sun because it's warming you. When you're looking south and it's cold, you're seeing an apparent sun. Speculation is that it's a reflection of the actual sun to the south of them. And so my thought to validate what they were seeing would be to do an elevation angle to the sun to find out what its altitude and azimuth were, to tell what time it is. My suspicion is that when they were looking to the south, it was their solar midnight, right? Somewhere over the earth, it's solar noon, right? Because the sun, wherever it's at, wherever its GP is, wherever its real GP is that you can measure, was it was solar noon, right? I'm curious, and I don't think it would be too hard to verify. Now it wouldn't work, but while they were doing it, and no one thought to do this, is to find out where solar noon was over the earth while they were looking at what they were seeing as the 24-hour sun to the south of them. Kind of know what I mean? It's literally
well, sure. Can you just go over that again for us one more time, mate?
Okay. I'll put it in the framework of the idea that the firmament is somehow causing reflections and apparent position of the sun versus the actual sun and where it is over the earth. All right. My suspicion is that when they were way south, and they saw their sun in the south of them. They're looking south, right? They're seeing the sun as it's making its circuit. Okay? My suspicion is the actual sun was 180 degrees behind them in the north, where it always is, circling over the earth, but totally on the other side of the earth. And that could be verified by measuring where the solar noon is for that position of the sun over the earth at that time. So the suspicion is, or the theory or whatever, this is interesting, is that the sun is way over on the other side behind them. They can't see it because it's on the other side of the plane. At solar noon for somebody, they're looking south and they see an apparent sun that is reflecting off of a firmament, but that's what it appears to them. And then as the sun moves around its circuit on Capricorn, which is the only time this seems to be able to be happening, then as it comes closer to them to where they can actually see it, the apparent sun that they see was moving and reflecting on the firmament or whatever. And then, 12 hours after they did their solar midnight, then they see the actual sun on Capricorn coming around to their north and rising in the east as it normally does, or northeast, and coming towards them on its circuit. The actual sun and its GP can be measured. I was just thinking, wouldn't it have been cool if they were actually looking at the cold reflection of the sun at their solar midnight, so to speak, and the actual sun could have been measured.
Are you trying to explain the southern 24-hour sun?
I'm not trying to explain it so much as I'm speculating that if there is a sun, or if there's an appearance of a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, which I think there is. I've got an old encyclopedia that says there is, only it happens on 1 or 2 days only instead of months like in the north. So there's an encyclopedia from the 60s that says that, yeah, that happens. They get a 24-hour sun, which I find fascinating. What they were looking at was an optical effect, an apparent sun to their south, as they're looking south, which is literally reflecting all the way from 180 degrees behind them in the northern part of the plane. And that which can be verified by just measuring where the solar noon is at whatever time that they are looking at what they think is the actual sun circling around them, which is an optical effect. That would explain why they thought that as looking south at the sun, it was very, very cold. And I forget whether it was Jaron or Whitsitt that actually just kind of offhanded mentioned this, that, oh yeah, when we're looking at the sun here, we're looking south at the sun going around us, right? Yeah. It's cold. But during the what would be their solar noon, where the actual position of the sun can be measured, its GP, it was actually warmer. This is all relative because it is Antarctica, but that would be a fascinating data point that no one thought to actually gather. It's just like Nathan's testing of the AE map, with times. You can look up and you can see, oh, it's noon in, I don't know what's 180 degrees from where they were across the earth. But sake of conversation, say it's China or whatever. But
just on that, I mean, I'm not going off stick what you're on, but I know they did measure elevation angles, in that in the final experiments. But it surprised me why they didn't actually use some, take some sextants down there and get actual, GPs of the sun. Never did that. They did measure elevation angles. We know that, but why didn't they take these? They're all professional navigators and they've got all the sextants. And you think that'd be one of the main things they'd be doing, seeing as that's like a big discussion going on. But they didn't take that equipment with them, did they?
No, they didn't have to. They had to rely on GPS and what it was telling them. So, if they had taken a sextant and done they did elevation and angles and azimuth, but if they had done that, whatever sun that they were seeing, whatever bright spot of light they were seeing, when they were looking south, real south, was not the actual sun. It was what we call the apparent sun. It's a light we see. It would have been interesting if someone had said, okay, well, here in China, or wherever, we'll just say China. Here in China, it's solar noon. And look, I'm looking at the sun, and it's solar noon, and it's at its azimuth, it's at its zenith, right here. At the same time, they were looking south and seeing a sun, or seeing what they thought was the sun, to the south of them. And this only came up because a friend of mine was like, I'm going to say that no one ever sees the sun south, to the south of them. And we talked to a couple of people in like Australia, New Zealand, and stuff like that. The sun is always, even when it's on Capricorn, always appears just north of them, right? You never can look south, like celestial south, and see the sun, except in Antarctica. And so I just found that fascinating to think about. It wouldn't have been cool if someone had thought of this, and while they were looking at what they thought was their solar midnight, was actually solar noon for somebody across the earth on the other side. And whatever optical effects happen, we don't know, whatever, just theorize that there's something to do with the reflective nature of the sky, is somehow giving them the appearance of a sun to the south of them that no one ever sees on the earth. It's always north or directly above them, right? If they're on Capricorn directly, then the sun will be directly over their head for solar noon. But as the sun moves around and is 180 degrees north of their position on the other side of the earth, and you could confirm that it was solar noon by measurement, at the same time they're looking at what they see as the sun in the south, and what they think is their solar midnight, I find that fascinating. And that would have been an interesting data point that would, of course, blow away the globe theory, because what, 2 suns? Just something to think about. And I thank you for entertaining that. Any questions?
No, like you did say with speculation, like you say, it's good to sometimes you can speculate and talk about these things, interesting stuff. Doesn't alter the fact that Earth measures flat, we all know that. But yeah, I understood what you said.
Well, I mean, it makes sense if you just take the paradigm, worldview that there is a firmament and it is way lower theoretically at as far south as you get. And we certainly have optical effects that we see all the time, like sundogs. And people do see two suns sometimes. It's kind of weird. And all this is optical. And people freak out about it. But the one thing you can absolutely confirm, and my roosters agree with me, is that you can confirm when solar noon is. Azimuth of the sun over your head is solar noon. That's how we tell time and stuff like that. That no one thought to find out where solar noon was on the earth as they were looking south, which never happens for anybody. No one ever sees the sun south of them. Then that would be, I mean, that's the only thing that's holding this theory to somewhat of a valid point, is that you can find out where the sun is at solar noon.
Unless there's two suns, unless there's another sun, unless there's another sun over the ice wall, over another, some other continents we don't know about. And then
there you that goes against scripture, excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah, let me jump in here too, because I did give it a thought in regards to what you're referring to as their solar midnight, and somewhere it being a solar noon. You have to look at the geography of, I hate to say, the globe, and geographically, I'm in West Central Minnesota, on literally the opposite side of the ball. So I'm thinking, I'm watching their nonsense down in Antarctica thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm on the other end of the ball and I've got at least 8 hours of sunlight and I have a solar noon here while they've got, I don't know whether it was a solar midnight or not down there, what you're referring to. But yeah, it just, again, that's feast of nonsense stuff that you could just go, well, this just doesn't work on a ball. It just doesn't work. Now, what you're speculating on in regards to, is it an apparent sun or is it a reflection? We don't know. It's a light in the sky, and we don't know how it reacts with the firmament or atmospheric conditions or any of that stuff because no one's ever studied it out. But I'm on track with you. I get what you're selling.
Yeah, the deal is if they saw a sun, they saw the light in the sky, what appeared to go around them. All right. That means that for 12 hours, they saw what they were seeing as the sun for, 12 hours, right? As they were looking south, southeast, southwest. And if at any time that they are reporting that they are seeing the sun at where they were at, looking south, at any point, if someone had just said, well, it's noon here in Wisconsin, and I see the sun, then that would have to confirm that there are either two suns, right? Or they're seeing...
Are you having it? If I hear two suns again, claiming to be a Christian, I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm saying that's the anomaly. I'm saying if they're seeing a sun and Fisherman's got solar noon at his place at the same time, then they're
What's
not.
The sun? What is the sun? Until you tell me what that sun is,
right?
Then you could talk to me about it being a double sun. All right. According to scripture, hold on. I'm going to listen to this nonsense for 20 minutes already. According to scripture, he made the sun, the moon, and the stars. Singular sun, singular moon, singular stars, plural. Case closed. You don't know what it is. You don't know what
Amen.
it does.
What he's saying is they saw something down there, because we know there's only one moon, one sun, and the stars above.
Down where?
That's
and
it.
Who's to say they were even there?
Well, that's true. He's speculating. He prefaced it by saying he was just speculating. So,
and we're taking it as read. We're taking it as their testimony that they saw a sun while looking south.
Okay. Do we know what our enclosure is? We know that we're contained, but do we know what it is? No.
No.
Do we know what the sun does other than what we could see in the sky? Nobody's been there to investigate it. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows how it moves. I got some guy saying lodestones, which is ridiculous. So to just assume two suns, it drives me crazy.
I'm not assuming two suns. I'm saying that, and I'm not really even assuming the firmament, and I'm not even assuming reflections and stuff like that. If they saw the sun and they were measuring it and they were looking.
Bible says that God be true and every man a liar. Now I'm going to stick you to your own word here. What is truth and where do we learn truth from?
From Scripture, Neil.
Okay, so if Scripture says something, then it's law. All right? It's not corrupt, because if it is corrupt, then what are we doing? God is able to keep his word. Purified, right? Purified in the earth 7 times over. The word is pure, and the word says what it says. Now, why they're seeing these anomalies? Who the hell knows, even if they are? And if they are, it's a phenomena, and there's ways to study these phenomena, aren't there? Right?
Yeah. Study all things, stick to that which is true. Prove all things, and stick to that which is true.
Some things can't be proven.
No, I can prove.
Some things is only as God grabbed Job and said, "Now I'm going to talk to you as a man, boy, and you're going to pull up your pants and you're going to listen to me. Where were you when I did everything?" Basically, is what he said.
And all I'm saying is, if fisherman had solar noon at his place, while the exact same time they were looking south, and they saw a sun, they saw the light in the sky that they followed, and they were looking south, but measurably and truthfully, Lon can measure his azimuth in Wisconsin and see that, yes, that sun that's warming me right now is right above my head. If that can be shown to be true, then what they saw in the south, to the south of them, was an optical something that no one can explain. I can't explain it. I can speculate, but I'm not going to. I'm just saying the data point of them seeing the sun to the south of them.
Let me ask you a question. I understand. You don't need to go any further. Let me ask you a question. Can they, there's a big freaking deception going on. You don't think by any chance that they could freaking mimic a sun? If you want to get conspiratorial on you,
crazy town.
How do you know that that's not being done?
I don't know.
These assholes are just thinking it's another sun.
I don't know. Now you're in crazy town.
Okay. So now, just like they don't know, we don't know. So I stick to what I can prove and what I know, and I stick to the Word of God. And the Word of God says He created one sun and one moon. Now, how they're seeing these things, that's something you got to figure out. It says nothing about dinosaurs in the Bible either. They're going to show me Leviathan and say, there's the dinosaur there.
Red herring.
No.
Please, can you turn your speakers down?
That's a red herring. You can measure and know exactly the truth of where the sun is at solar noon on the flat Earth. All right?
I'm talking about what they're seeing in Antarctica. You don't know what they're seeing in Antarctica. That's my point. If they're even seeing that.
Hold on. What's the fascination with what they see in Antarctica? How does that matter?
Doesn't matter as far as a flat Earth, but it matters when I'm hearing that there's two suns when Scripture clearly says one sun. Now, hold on. Now, when he returns and he recreates the heavens and the earth and he rolls it up like a garment, there's not going to be a need for the sun. He doesn't say there's not going to be a need for the suns. There's not going to be a need for the sun anymore because the Lamb is the light of the world. Never says sons plural. Got to read what these things say. Just like it says, to look at the nails in my hands and in my feet. They didn't say nail in my hand. It said nails, plural.
I didn't say there were two suns. I'm saying that if they were seeing the sun at the exact same time that someone else can confirm truthfully that the sun was actually solar noon somewhere else on Earth, then that's the anomaly that invalidates their observation as being, quote unquote, the sun to the south of them. That's it. And that can be validated and measured because there is only one sun.
So I just heard two suns, and I came here like a nut. I didn't hear two suns. I know I heard somebody say two suns. I heard somebody say, if that's the case, then there's either two suns, which freaking makes my head spin, and I get very crazy with that when the scriptures are clear. Now, like I said, we don't know what the sun is, how it does, what it does. All right. The sun's in a certain position right now for me. Where is it for the person that's in China? Is it dark out? I don't know.
All I'm saying is
the sun is an amazing thing that God created. Right? It's amazing. So I don't know how it does what it does. But even if they did see a sun, and it's and fishermen in a box seen a sun in Minnesota, I'm still saying there's one sun.
So am I, Neil.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I mentioned, but Neil, I mentioned two suns, but I wasn't. What I'm saying is, we were talking about
this heathen that he is mentioned two sons of figures. That freaking one deck guy, man.
No. Listen, what I'm saying is, he was talking about speculation, and what we're saying is it's either this or that. I'm saying it in a way was, well, the next thing somebody's going to say is, well, there must be two suns then. I'm saying it in that way. You know, and I wasn't saying, well, there's two suns. One deck's saying there's two suns. I was talking, on the behalf of the conspiratorial people, obviously.
Oh, I've heard three suns.
Fair enough. 5
There's
lashes
numerous
for one
amount
deck.
of suns.
10 lashes for Surf Daddy.
Here, I'll give you another one to contemplate over lights in the sky. And this is why I love this channel because, we don't know what the sun is. Nobody knows what the sun is. Okay. And over and over and over, the same old debate of the sun, and the sun is here, the sun's not here, it's supposed to be there. It's like nobody knows what the sun is. The interesting point, somebody brought this up in the conversation earlier this morning about sunset and how they're being light, but the sun is completely out of view, right? It's out of view, but there's still light. And while he was saying that, I got up early this morning, and when the light breaks, it breaks across the realm. So there's light on the opposite horizon where I'm sitting at, looking to the west. It's daylight, but there's no sun at all until the sun travels into view. So I can rest easy and at peace with that because of the difference I've experienced in the theatrical world with house lights and a spotlight. A spotlight is a directed light, right? But there is also a house lights, which are controlled separately, that come up or come down, and they're two completely different kind of lights. So we don't know the lights in the sky. We don't know what any of them are, but we can observe anomalies that happen, and they can only happen on a flat realm, on a static breadth realm. They can't happen that way on a ball. They just can't. So there's another one to throw in your little hopper.
Well, it's not that they can't happen on a ball. It's just they're never described from a ball. So what's the point in trying to debunk what would happen on a ball?
Exactly.
Well, the point of TFE was to debunk the AE map, and by inference, the ice wall or the circle of the Earth, and the basic biblical model, just the biblical description of creation with the firmament above and the circle of the Earth below. The whole point of Duffy's experiment, cough, cough, was to basically say, the flat Earth map doesn't work. Earth isn't flat. They were never even trying to prove that it was a ball. They were trying to prove that it wasn't flat. Again, anti-flat earthers. All right. If you have the worldview that our realm was created as described, you can't avoid the description of the firmament and the circle of the Earth. Okay. If you take that worldview, then I can speculate that what they saw to the south of them, which no one sees from their latitude, all right, no one at any latitude sees the sun to the south of them, all right? That's a fact. So what they saw to the south of them was an anomaly that could be explained by an optical effect that can be tested and validated or verified simply by finding out exactly when they were looking to the south of them, if 180 degrees to the north of them, if they'd turned around, they couldn't see it, but on the other side of the plane, it is solar noon. Absolute truth. You can measure it. That's a fact. The one sun is there. Absolutely. Positively. Cannot be debunked. Right? So all that does is it falsifies their premise that they were looking at the sun going around and they were at the bottom of a ball. That's it. And I find that fascinating to think about, that it could have been absolutely confirmed if someone had just thought to do that. Hey, it's midnight here in Antarctica and we're looking at the sun. Ha 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 ha. Let's call up somebody who should be in the dark on the ball and see if they see the sun. And they will say, no, it's noon here and I see the sun above me. Done.
Well, Nathan was invited over by Duffy. He could have done this.
Yeah, I'll go back to what Neil said. You can't trust those guys. You can't trust any one of them. You can't trust that they were there or that it wasn't staged. You can't. There's just no trust there. So if they were there, then you got to default to what Nathan originally said. Well, they're taking flat Earth measurements for angles to the sun. Well, then story's over. It's over.
Yep.
I'm more in a camp of I don't believe a word they say. Not a word of it. None of it. There's some sort of tomfoolery and shenanigans going on with them, and they prove themselves to be that steeped in that mess. They're not reliable. They're not reasonable. They're not logical. They're merchants. They're doing some fugazi nonsense.
Exactly, fisherman. What's it's a known liar? We've proven that. Aaron's who the heck knows what Aaron is? Poor guy lost his wife. Now his wife's got another kid from his best friend. He's a baller again. No, but he wants to give marriage counseling to people which he's not qualified for. So that sounds like a con to me and a scam.
Yeah, Duffy,
No
for Pete's
protection with
sake.
these guys.
I mean, we go back to the days when Duffy was inviting or going on people's podcasts and telling them, "Oh, did you know that you were on the list to go to Antarctica? Oh, how did I get on the list? Who was that guy who went on that podcast?" Then he had to come back and apologize. Yeah, have you heard about? Oh, I didn't. Well, Duffy was the one putting the whole thing together. So Duffy has zero credibility. Zero credibility.
He has a lot of credibility with Satan, though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He can do what thou wilt.
Well, I want it on the record that I totally agree that they're unreliable and nothing that they say should be trusted.
Right. And what is reliable is the word of God. That's been proven. Right? It's been tried. It's been proven. Every one of us that has a personal relationship with Christ knows that what's in that book it's infallible. Right? There's no doubt about it. So, and that book says he created the heaven and the earth. He created the moon, the stars, and the sun. And he even told us what he created them for. Right?
Yep. And the sun makes its circuit like a bridegroom.
Coming out of his chamber as a strong man to run a race. That is correct.
What's the end of that say? It says, and none
and the
shall
law
be
of the
hidden,
Lord is perfect.
and none shall be hidden from the heat thereof.
Right.
And that's what triggered my curiosity, because their testimony was that at one point, the sun that they see was not warming them. Okay? That I found fascinating, because if they're seeing the sun, it's warming you, right? None is hidden from the heat thereof. Okay? But for 12 hours, they experienced no heat and bitter cold. And for 12 hours, they said it was warm like regular. So that, to me, is what fascinated me about the idea, and wondering if what they were seeing was a phenomena that they can't explain on a globe at all, but it could be explained and verified by measurements of where solar noon actually was at the time. That it could only happen on a God-described circle of the earth with a firmament above, and an optical effect of what can happen at a certain time of the year, at only a certain 1 or 2 days of the year, when conditions are right.
If you ever shine a light through a reflection, you could see sometimes 3 of them, right? Shining something through like a glass or a freaking mirror or something.
You can replicate a sundog by just shining a light into a bowl, into a metal bowl. You can just.
Is that what a sundog is?
I don't know what a sundog is. I'm saying you can replicate what looks like a sundog just by reflecting a light into a bowl, where you've got the 3 points of light in the halo, around the bowl and the reflection. That's all I'm saying is you can repeat or replicate the optical effect of a sundog in a metal bowl. That's it.
Yeah, but I don't go by that because that's on a very, very small scale. We don't even know how big the sun is. And David Weiss does those demonstrations. I don't go by that. Shining something on a freaking orange or something, and look, the shadow over here, it doesn't work. I don't buy any of that.
No, but we
measured flat, and that's all there is to it. How we measure it, that's the key thing. And when you measure it, you're going to have to measure it off a horizontal plane of reference, and that's it. And that's the Earth. And everything else, I really don't care. It means nothing.
Right. And we do see sundogs, right?
I mean, I was going to suggest we have a speculation Wednesday or something, but I might have changed my mind now.
Hey, if we're going to have wild speculation Wednesdays, I'm down for that. But I ain't going to get crazy on y'all. And so you know, the Ratia is just the tip of the iceberg, bro.
I'm still freaking out that I'm pretty sure that the stars are a horizontal plane. They have to be. And so the stars aren't even attached to the rakia. They're just there in a horizontal plane so that God gave us a way to navigate.
I'm still freaking out that the Knicks came down from 29 points and won the game last night.
Were you throwing in prayers for that? Because, praying for stuff is against the rules,
Oh, there's no prayer involved in that. God already gave me the word that it's locked. That's why I didn't shut my TV off. My cousin Carmine gave up. Cousin Kamenuch was like, Neil, you got to understand the way this is going. They got our big man in foul trouble in the first 30 seconds. He already has 2 fouls. They don't want the Knicks to win. I said, I don't know. I'm going to stick it out. And they went down by 29. It was basically a wrap. And me and my son sat there. I said, if we can get it down to 20, then we'll go from there. Get it down to 15 by the fourth quarter, we got a shot. And me and my son just sat there and watched him get it down to 12, up to 9, down to 5, down to 4, down to Knicks got the lead. But it was crazy. It was a crazy ending, man. Crazy freaking ending. Because they almost blew it. They lost the ball, and one of the San Antonio Spurs got it with 13 seconds left. And he's dribbling to make a basket. All he's got to do is make a U-turn and hold on to the damn ball. The idiot tries a layup. OG Anunoby comes out of nowhere, swats it away, gets the ball, and then they fouled us because they had one to give. No free throws, but now we got to inbound it with like 7 seconds left. So they inbounded it. Freaking Brunson takes a freaking long 3, misses, hits the front of the rim, bounces up, and Anunoby comes flying from the foul line in the air above everybody and tips it in. But of course, there's 1.2 seconds left on the clock. So there was still a chance for San Antonio to inbound the ball and get it. So they inbound it, but Karl Anthony Towns, another 7-footer, just got a finger on it to change the direction. So by the time the guy got it, he couldn't get a shot off. And the Knicks win. And we're up 3-1. It was freaking hysteria in this house. I was going bananas. Imagine if I had money on the game.
You probably would have had a point spread that was more than 1 point.
Well, that's the guy called in the show yesterday, called in the morning show. He said, listen, the Knicks are going to win by 1 tonight. The spread is 1.5. I'm taking San Antonio. Or vice versa. I forgot. Wait, who was getting 1.5? Oh, the Knicks were getting 1.5. And they won by 1. So if you took the Knicks, you won by a half a freaking point. That's crazy. I don't know who called that in, but they called that one. But yeah, the best part of that was it was just me and my youngest son. He sits in the same chair since his run started. Even though they lost the other night, I said, don't mean anything. We lost to Juju. So it doesn't matter where we sit. He sat back in that same seat and he sat there the whole game with me. He didn't give up. It was like, that's cool, you know? When we got down to 7, I was like, dude, I think they're going to pull it off. And if they do that, Saturday's your birthday. And that's the next game. They can win the title on your birthday. What a gift that would be. It was cool, though. Moment of bonding with my youngest. Notice, what's his name? Fisherman in a box ain't saying a word about sporting stuff. I know how you feel. Wait a second. What's today's date? Today's the 11th?
The 11th. Yep.
Doesn't the World Cup start today? I think it does.
I don't know, but disclosure day's tomorrow.
Oh boy.
Mexico, South Africa.
What time? My time.
Shit, Neil. It's 8 or 9 UK. That means in for 4 hours, I think, or 5.
Oh, okay. So how are they going to do that? Are they going to put games on at the same time or just? I mean, one at
No,
a
you
time?
have different zones, man. Dallas, everywhere, Canada, America, Mexico. Some games are later. Yeah.
Sucks because Italy ain't there, man. And America, you know, they ain't got a shot. America, it's going to take about another 40 years for America to even have a team to compete with anyone from the Premier League. So I expect them to get knocked out right away. But I'll root for England, my English buddies. I'm on the UK bandwagon.
Well, I'm glad we got that cleared up.
Nathan, you don't watch the World Cup at all?
Not in the slightest.
Really?
No.
Some patriot you are.
I don't know about being a patriot. Don't care about it. I did when I was a kid.
I'm a footballer. I mean, I still watch the games and that, but I used to. What it just does me head in all the. Sometimes when you're listening, I've got mates of mine. They cry. They're literally crying when Manchester United lose, and then they're talking about how they would have managed it and why did they put him there and why did they put him there. And I can't be dealing with all that talk afterwards. So I don't mind sitting down sometimes and watching a game of football and that'll be it. But I ain't talking all the football talk after it.
Totally agree. It just doesn't appeal to me anymore. It doesn't particularly entertain me. So I don't watch. And when people talk about it, fine. You know, you be you. I like talking about flat Earth. It never ever gets old. I don't know what it is.
Well, Nathan, everything done on a flat Earth. So in essence, we are talking about flat Earth. I mean, can you imagine playing soccer on a globe? How would that even work?
Well,
but you can't play football with a flat ball.
False equivalent.
I don't even know what time the games are on this year. What's this weird place we're playing football in?
About 3 o'clock, isn't it?
What, afternoons?
Yeah.
I suppose that's. I could just close early, couldn't I? Actually, no. We've had watch. We'll put a telly up in the front of the shop, and everybody can come in and watch it.
You could put it on the plasma that's pointing out towards the street if you want to get the police involved. I'm sure they'd come and kick off if you did. Not the police, but you'd probably get fined for lack of public broadcasting rights.
We'll just do the AI version.
Have Neil just shout out the commentary. He did a pretty good job earlier. I almost made the joke. You'll get me a copyright strike, Neil. It sounds like you're commentating on a live game.
Really?
Well, when you were summarising the game, yeah.
Well, it's not a live game. It happened last night.
I know, but you were summarising it play by play, weren't you?
Yeah. And why, you can't do that?
Well, no, you can't. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying it's... Forget it.
Well, if it's going to get you a copyright strike, you can't do it.
Don't worry about it. Craig just said, I'll just get the AI version rather than broadcasting it.
You know, that's funny because you say that because when I was listening to one of the radio shows last night, the guy said, listen, I can't do play-by-play, but I can talk about it after it's done. So that's what he was doing. He would just be silent, and then you hear him go, yes! All right, they just got a 3.
We just changed the names to protect the innocent. So Freddie passes to Jimmy, Jimmy passes to Jane, because you can't be sexist.
Dun, 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 dun. That's that song by Peter Gabriel.
Jane plays with Willie, and Willie's happy again.
I always like Peter Gabriel better than Phil Collins anyway.
Yeah. Phil's a bit of a manic depressive, though, isn't he?
Well, I don't like that Led Zeppelin blamed him for their horrible performance at that Live Aid. You know, that was a failure on all their parts. And I'm sorry. You can't. I've heard Led Zeppelin live a few times. Sometimes they sounded good and sometimes they didn't. They just weren't tight like Queen. I'm sorry. Queen came on that freaking and stole the show from everybody. They were tight. They rehearsed.
Yeah, but how often did Zeppelin play together up to that point? When was the last time they played a gig? Let's have a thing.
So then they shouldn't have done it then. Don't blame Phil Collins for it.
Well, you know what people are like. They got to blame somebody for something.
Jimmy Page was always a sloppy guitarist. I'm not taking anything away from him. Of course, he's one of the great guitarists. He was a little sloppy.
Best band on that night was Status Quo. First people out. They blew the stage away.
Who?
Status Quo.
Well, I don't remember much of it, but I do remember Paul Young had a good session. Right? He was really good. I liked his session. It was early in the day for me. Sting and Phil Collins had a good song they played. U2 was good. The Stones were the Stones. I mean, that's the Stones. I seen the Stones live. And the basic music. The only thing that rolled on the drums was the stage. You realize the difference from the Stones when you see a band like the Police live. You know, the difference in musicians. The bass player, the singing, the drummer, the guitarist. Stones are okay. But, you know, the basic rhythm and blues.
Yeah, you can't beat it. Just
That's good. To be honest, Craig, I fell asleep at their concert. I'm being honest. When I seen the Steel Wheels concert, one of my friends' sister took me and the guy that played guitar in my band to see them. And you're like, yeah, this is great. I fell asleep because I think a few months later I seen the Police. Well, not too long after I seen the Police at the Ghost in the Machine tour. Now that was a freaking show. Holy shit. I was like, wow, these guys are monsters.
Yeah, the music in the 80s was quite varied, but there was still a lot of intricate music going on. And Police were actually, although they were just, a lot of people just thought it was some sort of poppy, rocky band.
They were the top pop band.
That they did was quite, yeah.
Yeah, but look at Billy Idol. Around all those giants, Billy Idol was still shining. Freaking Flock of Seagull, right? You had, who else was out at that time? In Excess. Who else was out? Depeche Mode.
Yeah, there was a lot.
A lot of bands in the 80s, man. That's why there'll never be another 80s again. The 80s was the second British invasion. So you know when I say the 80s wasn't music, it was like the 50s, 60s, and 70s just all smashed together, and bam, here comes the 80s. It's like part of everything. And that's why after that, it's done. Like, it was... Like this guy, Rick Beato. Do you listen to Rick Beato? He interviews the guitar players and stuff, the musicians, not just guitar players. He's really good. And he was saying that the musicians today are all billionaires' children. That's it. It's going to be very difficult for a working class group to make it. I just listened to it the other day.
In the 80s, all everybody used to listen to was 60s music. And that was it. At the beginning of the 80s, it was like, you know, the radio stations to listen to were anybody playing the 60s. But nowadays, for the last 30 years, the most popular still, what is it, 90s, ooze, and we're nearly 40 years later. Still 80s music on the radio is the most popular.
Absolutely. It's on MTV. It's constantly, I want my 80s. Yeah, it was everything.
So bad.
That's what my kids know it too. They even say it. They're like, man, the 80s had good music, huh? I was like, absolutely. It's nonstop. Bands coming from left field. Right? One hit wonders like Aha with that video. That was groundbreaking, that video.
Uh-huh.
And it all takes place on a flat earth. Yes, Aha. Aha.
Jolly good.
Anyway, I'm going to put this PlayStation back together. Back in a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to round out. Unless there's anything pressing somebody wants to add.
Nixon 5.
About you in Discord? Nope. With that, I'll say another massive, huge thank you to both Discord and G Plus Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.